Welcome to another edition of the Rural Alliance UK podcast, episode 335, Mock Around and Find Out. My name's Matthew Turner, alongside Anthony Fitzpatrick and Ashley Soden. How you doing, boys?
Doing good. Just wish that for once I'm supporting Tottenham tonight because I want them to do me a favour, and they can't even do that for me. They're bottle jobs, just like the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, doing good.
Excellent. We are here to do our first round predictive mock drafts. These will be competitive. This is what we think is going to happen, and there'll be some drinks on the line at the Royal Alliance meetup. So lots to play for here in a Monday, the Monday of the week of the NFL draft. And of course, we have a huge amount of content for you this week, including today and Wednesday. Going to be over 30 hours of live streaming. So I hope you guys have removed everything from your calendar, because we're going to be here for a long old time this week. We've got a lot of guests lined up for the week. So we have got Dan on Wednesday, who Ant knows very well, who's going to come on and talk with us about draft bets and hot takes on Wednesday. I have also asked another person who we discussed before, but they haven't replied to me yet. And then Thursday, we've obviously got round one. Friday, we've got round one recap and round two. Saturday, we've got round two recap and round three. And Sunday, we've got a round three recap. We've got 23 guests confirmed for the draft so far, including a very good special guest, I think, in Oliver Hodgkinson of Pro Football Network, who, of course, does this for a living from here over in the UK. If you've ever seen Pro Football Network's write-ups on players, it's likely he's going to be in and amongst those people doing those written pieces. So please do come and support us throughout all of that. If you want to know when exactly we're streaming, then please do have a look at the YouTube schedule, because it will all be on there, or we're going to be posting it on our socials very, very soon. All right. And the rest of the bits and pieces, Discord is going very, very well. And if you'd like to come and say hi, if you've never tried Discord before and you just want to give it a check out, then the link is live right now posted right now in the live chat. All right, what else have we got? College football podcast has come to an end for this season, and you're basically about a month away from kicking it back off again, I suspect, with looking at rosters and what have you.
Yeah, the grind never stops for college ball. Just as soon as the draft's done, you start preparing for the next one. So yeah, I've not started anything yet, but this time in a week when everything's done and I've slept a little bit, then yeah, we'll be right into it. So yeah, be about 4 or 5 weeks and we'll be back doing that again.
Please do go and support Lions Nation Unite at this time. Of course, it's a big time for them as well as Herman Moore's project, bring the best in Lions content creators together. And we're Twitch affiliated, YouTube monetized, and there's a tip jar down below. So if you enjoy what you're listening to, if you want to show some support that way, that'd be fantastic. Hello to everyone in the building. Said hi already. Mike the Marine and Big Aries on Twitch. And then Brent DeWitt, D Flat, Brian Shook, Michael Lucchese, and DMAP Zoom. If you're in the building but haven't said hi, come say hi, get a shout out. And if you've got any questions as we go, I mean, this is a round one predictive mock draft for us. So if you want to chuck in a few questions here and there, we'll gladly take those. In one of our last few episodes before the draft begins, and we'll just be commenting on proceedings as they go. Right, some Lions news. First of which is a couple of notable 30 visits for the Lions. Obviously, cool 30 visits because they can only invite 30 people. And boys, they have invited Georgia's tight end Ben Jurashek and running back Cam Scatterbo to come and talk with the Lions. And you mentioned on Discord your thoughts about Scatterbo as a potential Lions fit.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like the way he plays the game, what he gives to the game is just, it's crazy. Like anyone who saw his performances in the playoffs, like he couldn't get up on his own at the end of the game. His teammates were helping him get up off the ground, and then he was putting the ball in his hands and he was off running again. Like he will give every single last drop of energy that he has to his team, and he plays just as tough. So while it may surprise a little that they've brought him in, because I mean, for me, he's probably going to be, closest we get to him is 60, And when you've got Monty and when you've got Gibbs on our team, it's surprising. But kind of like what the Lions did with Matthew, the whole thing with Jameson Williams and Matthew Golden at this moment in time is Brad's going to have a lot of difficult roster decisions to make in the years to come. And you just have to put every single opportunity into context. If you do bring in a guy like Scat, that probably means you might look at moving away from Monty sooner rather than later and trying to reduce your wage bill in your running back room. And now I'm not saying that is a definite thing in his head, but as a GM, you've got to explore every single possibility. And that is one of the things you can do. And he'd certainly be the guy you'd look at if you did that. So, I'm quite excited they've got him in, to be fair. I think they'll love him. I think he'll give them something to think about in the draft and what they want to do. But yeah, he is absolutely like 100% a guy who would fit in this building right away, and Dan would absolutely love him. So I'm not surprised, even if I am a tiny bit.
Ash, what do you think of these two?
So Scat, I completely agree. Complete fit for us, sort of grit wise. Plus, you can do a couple of the trick plays. We all probably saw the trick play he did in that playoff game where he threw a touchdown pass, and it wasn't actually too bad. I bet Ben Johnson watched that tape and thought there's a better throw of the ball than Jared Goff. As for Juszczyk, kind of gone on the radar a bit. I know he was very good on the West Coast and then transferred to Georgia and just kind of fell down their check shot, unfortunately. Probably a late day 3 pro to UDFA kind of guy. But again, I like just bringing him in. Maybe it's also to ask about the guys who would have gone up against in practice, Jalen Walker, Michael Williams and such. So not reading too much into either of them. I like Scat, love him here, but yeah, unfortunately, probably be 60. We're going to have to get him out because if we don't take him, then 95% sure he's going to become an LA Charger in round 2. So round 2, round 3. So that's going to be fun.
I did forget, actually, I was going to give a shout out to someone who tipped us while we were off the air. Sam Elliott has tipped us £40. So thank you very much to Sam. That's much, much appreciated. And Sam said, and actually I'm trying to get the full quote so I can have a look. Here we go. Your enthusiasm and dedication on live streams during the cold winter months in the UK makes for great company. Keep up the great work, and let's hope the Lions can go one step further this year. Agree with the sentiment wholeheartedly, and many thanks, Sam. That means a lot to us. Thank you. I've put in one piece of news which isn't news, but it is something which has just been asked about in the live chat, so let's get to it. I don't know whether this has just come from Mike Payton and the national syndicated people or people who just look at anything that's being said on the internet is kind of running with. But there are increased rumours that the Detroit Lions are looking to potentially trade Jameson Williams either before or during the NFL draft. Boys, 2 questions. 1, do you think there's any fire to this? Clearly there's smoke. Is there any fire to it? And 2, hypothetically, if he was to be traded, what's his value, and what would you be willing to part with him for?
We all know. I won't say too much because I know certain person loves to talk about this issue. So I'll say it quickly. There might be some things around it, just due diligence from teams, but I very highly doubt that we're going to trade him anytime soon. If we were, it's got to be a lot. This is a guy coming off a 1,000-yard season, finally kind of breaking out. It's going to take a lot for us to part with him, especially since then suddenly we really don't have a deep threat. Like, I know Khalif can kind of do it, but he's more of a slot guy. It will probably give precedence to why we looked at Matthew Golden, and there might be a couple of guys down the draft board who can do it, but not to level JMO can. So for me, it's if at the end of next year it's kind of plateaued, then maybe I'll consider it, but not right now, not for sure.
I mean, the only reason it's out there is because Matthew Golden came to visit, right? People put 2 + 2 together, which equals potato for them. They say that it's just going to be a case of, oh, well, we're looking at a fast, speedy guy who we draft in round 1. Maybe we're going to trade our fast, speedy guy. But it kind of goes back to what I was talking about a minute ago with Scat. if Cam Scatterby does become a Detroit Lion, you're going to have to move away from David Montgomery potentially because you can't have really all three of them here at once. Or maybe not this year, but next year. You've got to look ahead. We got a lot of people to pay coming forward. Hutch is about to get paid, Kirby about to get paid, Branch going to get paid, JMO needs to get paid. And I think if you're a good GM, you have to look at every single possibility you can. You got to go into a draft with 15, 20, 25 different strategies as to what you can do depending on which guys fall, which guys don't fall. And I think the reason for getting Matthew Golden is if he falls enough and they think, actually, this represents fair game, fair value, now we go get him, then we can move away from JMO and not have to pay that salary going forward. You've got to try and manage your roster. I think it'll be the same for all these guys coming up. I think it'll be the same with Sam Laporta, all these guys that they will potentially be looking at ways to get cheaper at positions and not have to pay out all these mega deals. I think this is all where it's come from. For me, I'm not trading him. People are going to be in for a very rude awakening if we trade JMO and bring in Matthew Golden. Like, he doesn't block. He can't block. He's not that good at it. You want someone who has the intensity, the passion for the city that JMO does. You're going to be sorely disappointed. For me, JMO's irreplaceable on this team, and I will do everything to keep him here for as long as I can. If I'm trading him, if it must be done, then your offer starts with a first-round pick and ends with another first-round pick and probably, David Putney, because, I damn well feel like it, as they say in the draft film. So, yeah, it's just one of many ways Brad can go. I get the reason he's exploring it, but I think the trade stuff is coming way out of bounds. It's just people, as I say, they're putting two and two together, getting the wrong result. He means a lot to the Lions. No one can replace what he does here. So why not? We've got 2 more years of cheap control over him. And then, we've got tag and trade. We've got lots of stuff we can use to uphold his value and to keep him here. So, yeah, no, they're not going to do it.
Brian Shook has just thrown out a prospective trade with the Giants. 28 JMO and next year's 3rd round pick for 3 overall to get Abdul Carter, which makes me hesitate just because Hutch with Carter is such a tantalizing prospect. But I agree with you guys. I do think if you want to maximize JMO's value, you trade him now. I don't think there's any... Some people will say give him another year of production. I will say trading someone on the 5th year option is probably not a good idea to get max value. I think if obtaining max value is your aim, I think trading him now makes most sense. If you want the Lions to win a Super Bowl, fuck value. And I mean, never mind value, you'll get decent value for him trading him this time next year. So just give him this season and see where you land. I mean, at the moment, I can't imagine us paying JMO along with paying everyone else, including Amon-Ra at the position and all of the offensive line. It just kind of doesn't make financial sense to me. But we don't have to make that decision yet. But you don't know how things are going to change. What happens if in 12 months' time, Decker retires? And we have to put an emergency left tackle in, or we have to draft someone this time next year. And that frees up the amount of money we need to pay JMO. Like, I don't think that's entirely realistic, but I think it's something which potentially could happen. You just don't know where you're going to be in 12 months' time, so let's see what happens. I think is the key thing here. We're a better team with him than without him. All right. The Athletic released a piece on why Dan Campbell is such a good motivational speaker. I actually read this in full, and it's a terrific piece, which is why it's mentioned here. It goes into a lot of depth about classical thinking on how speaking is done, which ways they try and push and pull people, carrot and stick, about, speaking from the heart, speaking by, with emotion and tapping the right buttons, shall we say. It's a great read. So if you do have a subscription to The Athletic, it's worth your time, and it's not too long, but looking at why rather than just knowing in your heart by listening to him. Brad Holmes has had his yearly pre-draft presser. That was last Thursday. He's not had any calls yet about other teams wanting to trade into 28. He said trading up isn't a case-by-case, year-to-year thing. It depends who's in striking range. He's going to continue with drafting the best player available, but trading down is always on the table. They've had no conversations with Zadarius Smith since the league meetings. Things are in his agent's hands. He said he doesn't cling to the needs mindset. He can't chase. You can't change what happened last season. No, can't chase what happened last season and build that class off it, i.e. injuries. Emphasises building for the future always. So just because Edge got injured doesn't mean he's going to definitely draft Edge, I think is the message there. Echoed Dan's sentiments on getting more talent at wide receiver. He said you can't ever really have enough of them, saying that wide receiver is one of the deepest talent groups every year in the draft. Like the pass rusher group in the draft, believes that some will go before they pick at 28, but some will be there to allow the Lions to trade back. I see. In their trade back range, there will be some available they will like. Wishes it was easy as reading a headline, read character concerns, but liking the year-long process to building a house. And he said, and I quote, watch the draft, get your popcorn ready and enjoy it. Terrion Arnold is going to read out one of the Lions selections on day 2. One of the few people selected not to have a tie to Green Bay or Wisconsin. I see. Right. Thank you, Ash. And Rod Wood has made a comment at the Detroit Economic Club, which I just wanted to bring your attention to. So on Detroit's record attendance at the NFL draft last season, he said, I don't think they'll ever top it. There's no way Green Bay will come close this year. They'll finish second, or they'll finish third like they did last year, which is absolutely beautiful. No notes. Well done, Rod. He's doing his job well. The last thing we have is just actually a comment from the live chat talking about Grit Index. And just want to give massive props to the guys behind the Grit Index in Eric Schlitt, and I can't remember the name of the person.
Between the Numbers, Anthony.
There we go. That's all on Pride of Detroit if you want to go and have a look at that. But there was a question from Contrapastans saying, finally, we're going to have some new Lions to talk about. Are you surprised by any of the Grit Index rankings? So are there any people you're not surprised by? You thought they were gritty and they turned out to be gritty? Or are there any people who you didn't think were gritty and they've turned out to be, or vice versa? I don't know whether you've looked at these at all. Ash, I'm presuming that you've read it to cover.
Yep. Yeah. Some people that didn't really surprise me, obviously, there's Carson Schwarzenegger, the UCLA linebacker, who's his ranges from, depending where you read, bottom of the first round to end of round 3. Former walk-on, 1-year starter now, sort of worked his way up. Very athletic, just kind of went under the radar. Really broke out this year. Definitely gritty. Definition of gritty. I know Tyler Batty got a tier 2 on the Grit Index. Someone who I know Ant is very much champion on day 3 as a potential edge rush option. If you haven't heard his story, go back to when Ant profiled him on that Edge show or picked him last week in his mock draft. Spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't really watched our mock drafts from last week. And of course, there was a certain edge rusher who, given Eric's and most of the draft beats comments about him, I knew he wouldn't score high on the Grit Index. Obviously, that's what people think. Can't comment on it. We don't have access to the interviews and that some of these draft nicks do, but if that's the reasoning why we don't select him, then I understand it.
And have you read it at all on Pride of Detroit? Have you seen any of the Grit rankings? I know there was one in particular which you maybe didn't like at the edge position. In James Pierce. James Pierce being that.
To be honest, I'm not going to lie. I pay about as much attention to it as I do RAS. I don't pay attention to it. For me, I don't know. It's not that I don't like. They've got their thing, and obviously they put lots of work in. But I spend all year watching guys and listening to them and that, and I don't like to be unduly influenced. I don't like to be told who is and who isn't a fit here when I've clearly seen to the opposite. So I just let people enjoy it, do their thing. But as someone who watches it all the time and does it all the time himself, I don't use it. I don't have any need for it really. So no.
So some surprises from me, Jalen Milroe being up there with the top gritty quarterbacks. And I think it's more of a thought from my part of dual threat quarterbacks, maybe not necessarily, especially in his build, gritty people, but it does show up on tape. It's just one of those where if you think about it lazily, you may not think he's a gritty player, but he definitely is. Will Campbell being the top grit player when it comes to tackle guard? Actually, sorry, he's not the top guard. He'd be number 3 guard, but top tackle. Given that he's a finesse tackle, it's interesting that he's a gritty player. But yeah. Josh Connolly.
He's undersized and started as a true freshman. If that's not gritty, then
yeah,
I don't know what is gritty.
It's because it's not just the play style as Eric. If you really want to break down a kind of what Eric means with the grit index, what him and Anthony are coming up with, he did an episode with Miko and Morgan on the By Detroit YouTube channel. We broke it down because it's not just, to put it bluntly, hard-ass nose players, that kind of thing. It's also leadership, intelligence, and I think that's where, like, General Milrow, who's been a back-to-back team captain, he does it. Will Campbell, who started since a freshman and is seen as one of the most intelligent things, he takes, suppose you think with Will Campbell, I've seen it in The Beast, he used to do meetings with the LSU defensive line where he'll take him into the film and it's like, okay, what should I do here? Like, if you were, I don't know, Shamar Stewart, how would you attack me? Watch the tape. What is he doing? Break it down for me. So again, it's not just the, oh yeah, they're gonna with the tape Ratledge quote, oh yeah, I want to do legalized assault on the field. I want to make the other person regret football. There's a lot more to it than just that. So I think that's why Jalen Milrow, Will Campbell, some of the other guys that you won't expect are suddenly up there because they tick off those boxes while not exactly being the most, ground and pound players.
But sometimes you'd expect the high achievers and other players to be going high would be gritty players. Therefore, surprises potentially at the tackle position, Josh Connolly and Josh Simmons of Oregon and Ohio State, respectively, being in the red. Grace Abel being up there at 3rd as a guard center is really impressive, I think, especially from where he's come from.
And also, I'd just say quickly about this, and obviously the grit index is fun and it's great, but, I just don't think you can close the door on guys just for one little thing here and there that might, not fit with what we've got. For me, if you're saying you can't have one player on this team who might not fit what you're about, you're showing you've got a weak culture because it can't deal with one guy who potentially does not go the way you want. Look at the Eagles. Strong ass culture there, but they bring in guys who've got concerns. They bring in guys who've, it's not, I know it's different to us, but if you can't make an exception for one guy who you like from everything else just because he's not got this prerequisite set of things that apparently you need now, for me, that shows a weak culture, and it's not a good thing. It's not a healthy thing. So this is why I don't like to use these metrics all the time, because there's always exceptions to the rules. There'll always be a guy who doesn't meet these criteria who will be a good player for you regardless. So you have to be careful.
Yeah, I think as Eric explained, it's like Raz, it's not supposed to be the whole picture. Like he even explained, I think, that last year, someone that wasn't at the top of it, even though maybe he should have been when you think about it, like Christian Mahogany. He wasn't a top tier grit guy. We still drafted him. It's just it's kind of his way to try and give the fans a better insight into these are kind of character things that the team might be looking for. But obviously they do the whole way off. So he even said on that episode with Morgan and Miko, they were trying to compare Michael Williams to Shamar Stewart, which I know again maybe isn't the best sort of thing because I know we don't really like Shamar Stewart here on this show because but it was kind of the thing of what do you balance the grit style stuff versus the athletic ceiling, how do you balance it all? It's supposed to be one part of the evaluation for Lions things, and Eric even admitted it's not perfect. It will probably never be perfect because we're not in the room, we never know, but it's just trying to take all this wealth of information that like the Beast, Daniel Jeremiah, all these evaluations and kind of condense it down to these are the things that we think the team are looking for. So here's the players tick off the most boxes. And that's the good thing about this year is they've got nearly 350 players on there. So it's likely all the players we're going to draft are going to be on there unless there's a Manu who pops up out of nowhere suddenly. But it's just more of a scaling, kind of like Raz's 10-0 in terms of athleticism. It's 100-0 in terms of, according to reports and what we know, these are the players that best fit the characterizations the Lions seemingly look for in their players. It might be that we do draft James Pearson, suddenly Eric has to reevaluate his whole thing, but based on the information he's got from the past couple of years, Pierce doesn't fit it. But again, the role that he might be with the excellent pass rusher might overweigh there might be some character concerns. It's just a part of the evaluation, I think, for Lions prospects.
Anyway, if you want to read more about the Grit Index, a huge amount of work's gone into it, and I do think it's another piece of the puzzle. It won't replace your eyes, but it will give you an idea as to who the Lions might be looking at. I think that their hit rate is pretty good when it comes to predicting who the Lions might take based on grit. So, anyway, let's get on, shall we, with the mock draft. But first we have one question actually from Wizard of War. He just wants some thoughts on Tyler Shook. We did break him down, I think, in the quarterback prospects. Ash, that was you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah. I kind of said this, I think, on Discord recently. Same with Kevin Winston, actually. He's someone that's definitely had a rise up. I can see why people really like him. He has one of the highest floors, probably, of any of the QBs in this class. But it's just, unfortunately, the super senior kind of thing because of the injuries. Like, this is a guy that was in the same recruiting class as Penne. This is a guy who, that played a couple of years with Juwan Johnson, who is the Saints tight end, who's just signed his third contract in the league. So he's one of the oldest as well. But I can see why teams like him because he's arguably got some of the best sort of passing and sort of pressure stuff that in the in this class. It's just the ceiling isn't really there either. So that's why he's a day sort of midday to early day 3 prospects when arguably should be 5-6 QBs in front of him. Ward, Shador, Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe. Then you start maybe looking at Shook for me.
Any other thoughts from you, Ant?
I just don't know. 7 years in college and you only start one season fully. That's the flag. You can't stay healthy. And you've not played, for someone who's been in college so long, you've not played the most now. But I can see, like I say, the floor's high, but you're going to have to start him right away. It's like one of these teams at the start of round 2 who might take a flyer on a guy before taking another guy next year. That you're looking at that kind of thing, really. He's 26 this year. It's quite old and he's got to hit the ground running and get there like that. He's got the tools to do it, which is why people are intrigued, but it's just asking a lot, and historical precedence is not in his favor for older quarterbacks coming out, especially when they're not even in the first round, potentially.
Just like to say that there's nothing wrong for being 26.
I don't know. I remember what that was like a long time ago.
I don't remember what that was like. Oh, right. Mock drafts. We have done, between the three of us, and also Ryan Farden, who I believe at the moment is in Detroit, en route to Green Bay, Wisconsin. He's going to be in the inner circle, our own chairman. If you've heard us refer to the Facebook group, Detroit Lions Fans UK, One Pride Worldwide, he runs that Facebook group. I'm sure there'll be a lot of nice photos up there from Green Bay. We laugh about the attendance, but, his voice will carry further with the less people that are there. So we hope to hear him loud and proud. He has done a mock draft as well. Again, for Ryan's sake, he doesn't do this sort of thing. So the fact that he has is great. But if he beats any of us, shame on us. Even though this is an entire crapshoot. But still, we're going to snake this as we do normally. And just in terms of the scoring, I'll wheel down to that now for everyone. So you get a point for identifying a player at the correct pick number, regardless of who picks them. You get a point for correctly identifying the correct player to the correct team, regardless of where they were picked. You get a bonus point for correctly predicting that a team will trade up or trade down. And you get a half point for predicting that a team takes the correct position group. So if you had the right thought process but the wrong player, you're still going to get a half point. Before we start, are there any addendums you want to make to the rules? Are there any extra points or anything you want to delete from that?
No, I'm happy with those.
5 points for correctly guessing a Florida State player that's going in the first round.
So there's none. There's none then.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'd say
take
the
a punter
same.
at 32? Or a kicker? Is it kicker this year? There we go.
I just want to say, this is the worst, most horrible mock draft I've ever done in my life. The sheer lack of top tier talent knocking round is like, there's like 60 players that could go in round 1 when it's normally about 40, and you've got a few people who can sneak in. I did not enjoy this process at all, and that's someone who loves mock drafting. Yeah,
same. Like, I was up till, you both can test this, because obviously I finished off the draft advert at the same time I was doing mine. I was still going at 5 o'clock today, just trying to perfect it. And even now, I'm just like, if I get 2, 3 right, other than obviously the top couple, like, so when we're getting down to like anything past 5, or 4 or 5, really, I'm like, if I get 2 of these right, I'm happy. It's a crap shoot.
If I get pick 2 right, I'll be fecking delighted. I'll say that right now, because I have not gone the same way as you guys.
I think I can have a guess.
Snappers can't go that high, Matthew.
Yes, they can. Yes, they can. Right, I've just slightly tweaked the wording of the rule. You get the half-point consolation half-point if you predict the right position group without getting the right player. So you get the full point for getting the right player and a half point for the right position group. So the max number of points per pick is 3, because if you pick the right player at the right pick to the right team with a trade up or trade down, you get 3 points.
Hell yeah.
So a max of 96, although realistically not everyone's trading, and so you're probably looking at a good score, I would say, of maybe 10. Because the first couple of picks might be a bit more of a layup, and then it's just an absolute crapshoot. As Ant has said, this is particularly difficult. Anyway, we're starting with Ant. Well, I'll let him lead off, but just as a spoiler alert, we're all going with the same player.
I'm about to say, should we just skip this pick and get it over with? Because then, like, it's going to be the only one that we do this on.
Yeah, so Cam Ward goes number 1. It feels like that's pretty certain, boys.
Yeah, we can skip this one and then move on to the others, and then like I can spend more time, because there's no way that's changing. I don't think.
Cam has been on Twitch talking about how Traylon Burks is a top 4 wide receiver in this league. He's definitely going to be a Titan.
I mean, if I was drafting a QB number 1, I'd expect him to say that about the receivers he had on my team. So, good for him.
Yeah. All right. Is there any shot of this not being Cam Ward?
No.
Not at this point, I think. Unless the Titans have sold us all a dream.
I agree.
It's going to be Cam.
All right. Pick number 2. Ant starting us off with Cleveland, taking Travis Hunter.
Yeah, so I've not been swayed by the recent changes in this. For me, it's very simple with Travis Hunter. He is one of the few blue chip talents in this draft. And for me, Cleveland need a player to reset the standard at that franchise. They lack a spine, they lack a backbone. And for Hunter, who plays both sides of the ball, he's relentless. He trains hard. He trains as hard as Amon-Ra. Like, he is just never happy. He wants to play both sides of the ball. He's going to be that guy for that team. They need a player like him to redefine what it means to be a Cleveland Brown and the work ethic there. And I think he would fit in perfectly. They've got both need for him at receiver and corner if they want to use him there. But for me, it's all about the culture. Travis going there. I think it's absolutely the right pick. The NFC North is tough. It's hard to get out of. The Browns will need to find themselves again. I would love Travis to go there and reset the standard for them.
The Browns have changed conference.
I said AFC North, didn't I?
You said NFC, I swear.
Oh, did I? I thought I said AFC. Well, whatever. The North. The other North. The not as good North.
Right. I am up next. I said I was different to everyone else.
You've done it, haven't you?
I have done it. The New Orleans Saints go up to 2 with the Cleveland Browns to take Shadur Sanders. Quarterbacks go 1 and 2. I know that this is a bit of a shot in the dark, but if I get this right, I think I win the whole thing. And so I'm kind of taking my shot, because I think that there's I'm not going to say there's a 50-50 chance of this. I think that the chance of me getting this right is probably 20-30%. But if there is a team which could unexpectedly trade up, it's the Saints, especially when they shouldn't, because they're absolutely mad people. And they've done it with Marcus Davenport. Why not do it here? And if you're going to do it for anyone, they need a quarterback. He's the second best quarterback in the draft. You don't want anyone else to get their hands on him. I mean, what happens if someone takes him before 9 or trades up above them? Pittsburgh need a quarterback, other teams need a quarterback. If they feel that pressure enough, especially when it might be cheaper to trade up here, because Cleveland going down to 9 will get a bit of a haul, but they'll still get a really good player at 9. It won't be Abdul Carter, but there could be adequate consideration elsewhere. I think this has a shot. That's all I'll say. Ryan Farden has stood with Ant and gone Travis Hunter, and Ash, you have also gone Travis Hunter. Anything to add on what Ant said?
What sold me last week was Barry's comments on him, where he basically said, yeah, we're going to play him on, but if we come here, we're going to play him on both sides of the ball. As much as, obviously, I've got beef with Travis Hunter for my birthday 4 years ago, and what he did to me after I came out of Spider-Man. Fair play. You've got yourself the number 2 overall pick. You probably made the right choice. Come to it. Well done, sir.
Ash, we're sticking with you for pick number 3 in the Giants. You've gone for Abdul Carter.
Yeah, it was a tough one because I know obviously last year they traded for Brian Burns. A couple of years ago they picked Kayvon Thibodeau. But at this point, they're in a position to take arguably what I'd say is the best talent in this draft. I know Travis Hunter might get it because he plays both sides of the ball, but in terms of just pure talent at one position, that's Carter. And the good thing is they can still keep Kayvon around if they want to. I did really consider down the bottom trading, using him as a trade piece for the Giants to come back up into the first for receiver. Didn't do that, spoiler alert. But the good news is they can kind of mix Carter in initially in the Aziz Al-Jalari role where he plays as a rush linebacker, plays a bit off ball as well, because obviously Carter's got experience at off ball at Penn State before he moved to edge. It just fits for them, and suddenly their defense gets a whole lot better in a division where they're going up against two, arguably 3 better franchises in the Commanders, the Cowboys, and the Eagles. They get a bit more defensive firepower to try and limit their offenses.
I believe Ryan Farden's done the same thing here and gone Abdul Carter. Because Travis Hunter is still available on the board, and because the Giants are the Giants, I am taking Travis Hunter for the Giants. I don't really like it, but they need help at wide receiver. I feel like the Giants will see him as a wide receiver. We hear that Cleveland like Travis Hunter as a wide receiver and not as a cornerback, and he'll primarily play as an offensive player. Although, whatever. The Giants need help there. They also have, an ascending defense. The defense is actually sneaked good. If he plays on both sides of the ball, I think he really helps him there. Carter obviously is an absolute beast, but they've actually got a couple of edge players. The need at wide receiver and corner is greater. So the fact that you can take what a lot of people consider to be the slightly better prospects between the two of them, Travis Hunter's the pick here for me. And I believe you've gone with the other two and gone with Abdul Carter as well.
Yeah, I did have a trade up at this point when I first did it, but the more I thought about it, the more I thought the guys who would come up for him don't have the ammunition to do so. But for Carter, like Ash mentioned, he'll play like Aziz Ojulari does in that system. It gives you flexibility. One, if you don't want to extend Kayvon long term, you've now got his replacement in there. But you can also work multiple fronts because they work that 3-4 fronts as well. You can drop Kayvon inside as a 5 if you want to drop him in there, and you can play all 3 of them at once. You can be versatile with what you do, and of course, Abdul has, he started as middle linebacker at Penn State, so you can move him around as well. So they need to win this year. You overload with talent at the edge. There's so much you can do, especially with that interior they've got. I think Abdul Carter going there. It does make a lot of sense to me now. So yeah.
And you're leading us off with the Patriots at pick number 4, and you've gone with Will Campbell.
Yeah, so I've said this ever since Vrabel was hired. He's either going to start on that defense or he's going to start on his trenches. There's no other way about it for me. I think if the top two defensive players are off the board, then you switch and you look at your offensive line instead. And, they do need some big help on that offensive line. Will Campbell, still for me, regardless of the measurements, regardless of the size, I think he's your best bet when it comes to offensive linemen at the next level. He's going to start day one for them. He's going to give Drake May much needed protection on that team. He's going to help with the run game. Like you say, he's a finesse guy, but he's tough as nails. He's going to be an instant leader on that offense for them. I think that's what Vrabel's going to want to do. He's going to want to run the ball well as well. You can do that having Campbell on there on that left-hand side. So, yeah, it's going to be defense or trenches. If one of the other two don't go before him, it's going to be them. But for me, Campbell will be the slam dunk pick for them.
All right, because of my cascading effect of the trade up from New Orleans, I now have Abdul Carter on the board. And so therefore, that is the pick for me here for New England. And Ant said it totally correctly for me. He starts working on those trenches or he starts working on those defense. And here he manages to do both by picking the best player in the draft for me. Vrabel's absolutely going to love Carter. And my only issue is because Vrabel's a bit of a... I don't think he's the most innovative thinker. And I think Abdul Carter maybe needs someone who is a bit of a new age thinker. I don't necessarily like the fit. But he's going to take the best player because what else are you going to do? So Carter goes there. But I would love to see Carter go to, well, not here, anywhere else, just for his own sake. But anyway, Ryan Farden, well, he's pat 4 for 4 with Ant at the moment, so I'm in big trouble if I'm wrong, because I'm going to lose to Ryan here. But there we go, Will Campbell at number 4 to New England. Ash, you've also gone there too.
Yeah, it seems the obvious pick, I think. I know Membu, who's been getting some buzz for this range as well. I could totally see that, but for me, Campbell is the better prospect. Just overall, like Membu's big riser in this draft class. We'll get him on to in a bit, I think, for everyone. But Campbell just seems the nice slam dunk pink. And if it doesn't work at left tackle, well, you can slide him inside to guard, and you probably get just as good of a player, if not better. Like he does have all pro potential at guard, but right now, try him at tackle because that's what he's played since he started at LSU. I know obviously he had some rough games against a certain FSU passer known as Jared Verse, the reigning defensive rookie of the year, but got better since then. And you're going up against potentially the best competition in the SEC, so you know he's seasoned. And he'll protect last year's QB1 in Drake May, which makes me happy.
We've got another FSU comment from Ash. So anyone who's playing the Ashley Soden drinking game, that's 2 fingers. But anyway, fun. Ash, we're sticking with you for pick number 5 with the Jacksonville Jaguars. But you have a trade up.
Yeah, I do, because coming up behind them is number 6, Las Vegas Raiders, who are not set at QB. I don't know. They are actually. Gino is there. I'm an idiot. But still, the long-term answer the Raiders might need. I could see him picking Shador if he's there. So the Saints get itchy fingers and they're like, we really need our guy. So they finally get a trade done. They weren't going to do it with one. Tennessee are going to stay put. I think Cleveland could be an option, but might be a bit too much. They stay and take the best player. New York, that's a risky one. They don't want to tip their hand by trading away with New Orleans. And they're safe with the Patriots. They're not going to move on for Drake May. So number 5 is their first sort of nice place. The Jags move down a couple of spots. So Saints give up 105 and pick 221. They get pick 5 and pick 221, so that's in the 7th, and they give up 9th overall, 248, and next year's 2nd to move up to number 5 and take their QB of the future, Shador Sanders. Perfect fit for him because it's in a dome, so when it comes to the cold months, the arm strength won't become a thing. they've got some weapons there. I know obviously there's a bit of an uncertain future around Chris Olave, but they've got some reasonable weapons there with John Johnson, some other guys, and it's the kind of perfect fit.
All right, Ryan Farden, next up at 5, takes Mason Graham for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think this is going to be a popular pick in the consensus mock draft, to be honest. He's the best player available in this scenario for me, for Ryan. For myself, I really can't remember what I did. Let's find out. I've gone Will Campbell here. So Jacksonville have struggled at offensive line for a long time. They've invested a lot in wide receiver, and they've still got what they think is a franchise quarterback. So protecting him would seem to be an absolute priority for me. I mean, the problem is, and I feel like the three of us, but especially Anne, will be saying they need to go trenches here for like more than half the league. It feels like it's going to become a trope at this point because most teams don't prioritize it and then have a problem. So, yeah, but again, like Jacksonville need to prioritize the trenches. Maybe they have a little bit more on the defensive line already with, Josh Hines-Allen, and then they've just picked up the 5th-year option on the former first-round pick. So they got edges kind of sorted. Interior's not so great, so Mason Graham for Ryan kind of makes sense, but yeah. Trevor Lawrence has had a hard time with it, and some of it's been down to his offensive line. I don't want to give him an excuse anymore. I kind of feel like the excuses are kind of running out. But, they traded away... am I going to get this right? No, they traded away their left tackle, didn't they?
Mm-hmm. To Minnesota last year when Parcel went down.
Yeah, so, there's clearly an opening there, and Campbell's going to slot in day one. As Ant was talking about when it came to New England, he's going to be an absolute fit there. So, number 5, Will Campbell's not available for Ant. Instead, why don't you take it?
So this is where my board starts to diverge. And
things like this happen. Please.
As someone who was a fan of Ashton Jonte long before he got popular, I love the kid and I think he's a wonderful running back. I do think the hype about him has gotten a little too out of hand coming into this term. Generational gets knocked around, not so lightly, but I do buy the theory that there is a bit of a bidding war about him now. I mean, for me, there is no difference between Ashton Jonte and Almarian Hampton in terms of skill level. I think they're both incredibly good, and you don't need to move around for one of them. But Ryan Poles is in win now mode, and he can't afford another bad season, or his ass is out of Chicago. And I don't think he's going to want to try and settle for running back 2 this year. And, the Raiders are highly linked with Jonte, and, you've got to get above them if you want to. Jacksonville, first-year GM, head coach, they've already got 10 picks, but I think they can fleece a good price out of Chicago to get above here. I've got Chicago having to give up 41 as well as 10 to go and get 5 from them, get one of them earlier second-round picks. But it works for both teams because the Bears go up and get Jonte, a shiny running back for their shiny quarterback. We know Ryan Poles likes the shiny big things, and he's trying to hold on dearly for his job. He thinks he's got his offensive line sorted, which he hasn't, which is good for us, but I think they're going to get murked into going up for him because I don't think they're going to want to settle for Hampton at 10. Then you wonder, what do you do there? I mean, there's a lot of other things I do, but I think they're settled in on having a guy, and I think they want to win now and they need a guy. So, yeah, I've got the Bears biting the bullet and going up for Ashton Jonte.
So the Bears have jumped Vegas, who are the betting market's favourite for Jonte. So they've been absolutely done here, and instead you now have to take them at number 6. And what do Vegas do, having their man taken from them just a pick before? What's going on, Ant?
They panic a little bit because they really, really wanted Jonte, and they decide, you know what? We're going to take advantage of the market and we're going to trade back ourselves as well while we figure what we're going to do. I've got San Francisco moving up at this point because San Francisco, their trenches are badly in need of redoing up. They're need a tackle. LT's 37 years old. You got McKivitz at right tackle coming into a contract year. You need an edge rusher opposite Nick Bosa. But what you really, really need is a defensive tackle because you just don't really have any worth the money. You need to put in a guy there who's going to be an absolute monster and is going to be a cornerstone for you. You've got to rebuild it. And because Jonte's gone at 5 and not Mason Graham, he's there. For me, San Francisco give up 11, 75, and 113 to come up to pick number 6. They've got quite a bit of draft capital this year, so it doesn't overtly affect them going forward. But they take Mason Graham. Mason Graham is a Cali boy himself. He comes from that part of the world. He knows what it's like to play over there. He is the best interior defensive tackle in this draft. The amount of carnage he's going to help cause with Nick Bosa and guys on that line, for me, will be the start of them rebuilding up that trench warfare. That's why they've been struggling, because guys have been getting old. They let Javon Hargrave, guys like that go, and they've not really replaced them. So I think San Francisco get aggressive this year to really fortify their trenches quicker. And I've got them getting Mason Graham.
It's going to be a pick which hurts, because if San Francisco need anything, it's someone who can stop the run and rush the passer from that position, because they were woeful at it last year. So that's a really good pick. I absolutely hate it, which means it's probably a good thing. My own pick for the Raiders, well, Jonte hasn't gone before, so he goes here. I am buying the smoke with this. And if you have a look at the Raiders situation, I might be one of the bigger Zamir White fans in the league, because I think I might be one of the only ones. He didn't have a good year last year. None of the running backs did. They've brought in Raheem Mostert. How much tread is there left for him? I'm not sure. But that offensive line is underrated. It's not amazing. But with Colton Miller and Jackson Powers-Johnson, Dylan Parham, you've got 3/5 of a pretty good offensive line in there. And I don't know about Jordan Meredith and DJ Glaze, if I'm honest, but it remains to be seen. But what's very, very true is that the running backs struggle to get it done. With Michael Mayer and Brock Bowers at the tight end position, you've got 7 people you can put on the line who are all pretty damn good blockers there. So if you can get a dynamic running back threat, maybe you can help Geno Smith convert some of those borderline defeats into borderline games, and maybe borderline games into narrow victories. So, Jonte, Ant's right, he's been on him from the beginning. At the start of his run this season, at least, but probably before then. He is a transcendent talent. Is he as good as the 2 running backs in the Gibbs class in the first round? It's not a conversation I'm comfortable having. Probably. Don't know, but he's an exceptional talent, so hard to pass if you're Vegas, I think. Ryan Farden has also gone with Jonte. Ash, you also have San Francisco trading up here, but not for the same player.
Yeah, I thought I was going to go off the beaten track with the San Francisco trade. I guess not. So I have San Francisco trading pick 11, pick 75, and picks 100 in the 3rd round, and pick 147 in the 5th for 106 and 180 in the 6th round to jump in front of the New York Jets and select their franchise tackle of the future, because the Jets also need offensive line. So the San Francisco 49ers, who have a shitload of picks in this draft, use a couple of them to jump up and get their guy who initially will probably start at right tackle opposite Trent Williams as he beds in, and as soon as Trent Williams retires, slide him over to left tackle, and you have some continuity there instead of then having to go searching for another guy. Just makes too much sense to me. And Membu, with his athleticism, the perfect fit for the outside zone Shanahan scheme that obviously they run.
All right,
for the record, one of my many screwed up pieces of paper, that was the first pick I made for the 49ers going up. So I'm actually going to change my mind.
Great minds think alike.
But yeah.
All right.
Going up.
Well, I don't have it, unfortunately, but there we go. I've only done one trade, because as I went through it, I know. So I went through it and I was like, I just don't know who's going to do it. And at least if I pick where I'm at, I'm going to have the right team picking in most of the right picks. But, that's just because I'm boring, like you said, Ash. You're back on the clock, Ash, at number 7 for the Jets after having Membu taken from them.
Yeah, so Glenn unfortunately can't replicate what we did here in Detroit when he became obviously our defensive coordinator with us taking Saul. So he does the next best thing. He looks at the position that he himself has coached for many a year and he played, and he selects the best one in it with Will Johnson, who I know has kind of fallen down draft boards recently with the sort of mere workout and the lack of tape from this year. But you look at the healthy tape he put on last season before he got hurt, and then he's the best corner in this class. I know obviously they've got Sauce Gardner on one side. They've lost DJ Reed to us. Unfortunately, they signed Brandon Stevens from the Ravens, but Brandon Stevens is not good. So you have Will Johnson come in, slot in, kind of like TA did last year, at cornerback 2, with Sauce taking up most of the targets with him being him. Johnson can bed in, perfect kind of fit for the system. I know he obviously is not the most athletic, but he can play man coverage, he can play off zone. Perfect thing for Glenn, and he just resets that secondary, shores it up behind what should hopefully be a revitalized pass rush this year with Jameson Williams hopefully bouncing back, and a certain edge rusher signing his 5th-year option today. He should be playing for a big money deal. That Jets defense looks a bit scary again.
All right, Ryan Farden at number 7 has gone with Armand Membu. I have also gone with Armand Membu, so Ash's thought about jumping the Jets to get him, I think, is a good one, because I think that's where the Jets should go. I think it's where they will go. If you have a look at the fact that they've now got Aaron Glenn, if you think about what Glenn has learned under the last couple of years in terms of learning about what's important in this team, and if you have a look at the Jets, I think he will back himself to sort the defense out. Because they've got the players. They really have. That defense doesn't need any restocking whatsoever as long as they play up to their potential. They don't need a single new player, I don't think. But that offensive line is missing a right tackle. And Membu is that right tackle. I mean, okay, could they do with another wide receiver outside of Garrett Wilson? Is Josh Reynolds and Alan Lazard really going to do the business? No. So maybe that could be in play here, but I don't believe he's going to value skill position players over trenches. Justin Fields is starting for you. Could you consider going quarterback? I've already taken 2 at this point, so probably not. And he loves Justin Fields anyway. Brees Hall lacked juice last year coming off the injury. Could you consider going running back in O'Marion Hampton? Maybe, but Membu's the obvious choice at this spot, I think. Right tackle's a glaring hole. Carter Warren is the prospective starter at the moment, apparently. Good luck with that. And Jets on the clock for you. You also have Membu.
Yeah, I think this is a pick you just don't think too hard about. Aaron Glenn comes from the school of Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell believes in running the football. Aaron Glenn wants to run the football there. You need an offensive line to be able to do it. You've got Oliver Fashanu, who's coming into his 2nd year at left tackle. You have Armand Membu, who's a road grader more than anything, so he'll do better against the run first right out the gate. That is 2 potential franchise tackles who you've got on rookie contracts for at least 3 years. The flexibility that gives you going forward is huge. So I don't think you overthink this. It was never going to be Tyler Warren or anyone like that. He's going to do it. Any descendant of Dan Campbell will sort his trenches first, unless he's got a shite GM like Ben has in Ryan Poles. So yeah, Membu's the right call here, and they really should go for it.
And then you're back on the clock at 8 with Carolina. I suspect this might be a popular pick. It seems to be what everyone's picking. Jalen Walker to Carolina at 8 for you, Ant.
Yeah, and this is not just going with, popular opinion. You look at initially I had the Panthers going up to get Abdul Carter because I believe they need a star on that team. The defense is that bad. When it's that bad, you need to put some blue chip on there. It's not just getting a load of good players. You've got to put a blue chip on. But apparently Carolina don't agree. The GM doesn't really agree with that. I don't think he's brave enough to do that. So I think he'll stay here. Jalen Walker fits this for a number of different reasons. So for one, you know, that 3-4 system he uses, Jalen Walker will play at the outside linebacker role. The mint scheme that Kirby Smart plays in Georgia is very similar. So if you're looking for a schematic fit for Evero, a guy he'd like to play there, then like he is that guy. And you know, he has got insanely good upside. He's one of those who could be a blue chip player for them if they unlock his full potential. So it's a scheme fit thing for me. I think it makes a lot of sense, and you know, I agree that they'll take him.
I believe I have the same pick. No extra notes. Jalen Walker to Carolina. So does Ryan Farden. So does Ashley Soden. So we've gone back to being chalk.
Yeah, like I've had this penciled in for a while. Kind of helps. Some head coach at Flag is a Panthers fan, so I was able to pick his brain and say, "Oh yeah, what do you think you need in the first round and all this?" And he seemingly fixates on Walker. It complete scheme for, as you said, as Anne quite really pointed out, very similar. The good thing is they've got the veteran for him to learn off as well. Someone who kind of came from similar beginnings with Javian Clowney, an athletic guy from the SEC, great against the run, needed a bit of work on the pass rush. That's what Jalen Walker is, because he's kind of been flexed between off ball and edge, depending on the situation. He hasn't fully developed that pass rush arsenal, so he's better for him to learn from than someone who's had to go through a similar thing. And the good news and the best thing is, because he's got that off ball experience, you can slide him inside, kind of like what the team used to do with the guy who's now twat in for the Commanders, Mr. Jump off size 5 times in a row, Mr. Slam into Jared Goff and not get flagged for it when it's so far after the pass, it's unreal. Perfect fit for them, and it completely upgrades their defense. Because yeah, they've lacked a star. Like you look at, they've got Derek Brown, who obviously they infamously took in the TJ Hawkinson. Yeah, they've just paid JC Horn to be their corner. They need someone now at that sort of second level at the linebacker position to really be the leader, because ain't really going to be Clowney, ain't really going to be Josie Jewell. Perfect fit for them.
And now you're up for presumably the Jacksonville Jaguars after the trade down with the Saints. So who have you taken here? I'm not going to be alone then.
Yeah. So again, this is one that I've pretty much got put in pen. It kind of helps that Mason Graham did post a video to his YouTube channel of him working out in the Jacksonville Jaguars shirt and then quickly had to delete it. This seemingly is one of those, kind of like with number 1 with Tennessee, wherever the Jags are picking, I'm 99.89% sure it's going to be Mason Graham. It's just a perfect fit for them. They need an interior guy to go along with the guys that got on the edge. Graham upgrades that interior perfectly, and suddenly you're kind of getting back to the Saxonville days that we used to know and hate, when all the way back when good play star Blake Bortles was their QB and led them to the AFC Championship. They're kind of getting back to those days, I think.
All right, Ryan Farden has gone for Shadur Sanders at 9 at their natural pick to the Saints. I've got Cleveland here after their trade down from 2, and Mason Graham has also fallen to 9 with Cleveland. They pass up the chance to get Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter and get Mason Graham fall in their lap. I think that Browns fans will be thanking their lucky stars if this happens. And I mean, to get here, I've had to have Will Campbell go 5 to Jacksonville, but I just think that's a bigger need. That's what I would do. Maybe I'm thinking about what I would do and not what they would do in this position. So that'll be my cross to bear when I'm wrong. But then, Carolina would have the choice of Mason Graham or Jalen Walker. And I just thought, they've still got Derek Brown, and I'm not sure how willing they would be to put another resource like that in there. So that's why I went Jalen Walker, because of the scheme pit, because of the need at that position. And so somehow Mason Graham falls to 9. If Mason Graham falls to 9, either in my scenario or yours, Ash, it's an absolute travesty, because he's a top 5 pick for me. So I'd be sad to see this in either case, but for Jacksonville for your case, or Cleveland for mine, it's a home run here for them. And I think you still have the Saints here at number 9.
Yes, I do.
And you've taken Kelvin Banks.
So I'm one of the higher people on Kelvin Banks. I know his stock has taken a hit since the start of the draft process, but for me, yes, the Saints need a quarterback. I don't think that's in any doubt here. But at the same point, I think Spencer Rattler showed enough flashes last year that if you're actually going to be able to protect him, you can build something around him. I'm not sold on the idea that you get another quarterback in just yet, specifically because their offensive line's an absolute mess. They moved Talisi Fuanga over to left tackle last year, who had a horrible year. Like, he gave up double-digit sacks on the. He's just not comfortable playing at that left tackle spot. You want him at the right tackle spot, but there you've got Trevor Penning, who's heading towards bust territory. Obviously, Ryan Ramczyk has retired. He's not coming back. The franchise is gone. Your offensive line is in a mess right now. And to just bring in another quarterback, if you're going to bring in Shadur, or if the rumors has it, you're going to bring in Jackson Dart and you're going to throw them lambs to the slaughter. These are not the kind of quarterbacks you can throw in year one, kill them, and then expect them to recover. They need stable environments to work in to be able to fulfill their potential. I don't see the point in doing it. So, in other words, I'm going to go for their tackle. I'm going to start rebuilding that line before I think about it. And I'm going to give Spencer Rattler a chance to win the job permanently next year. Talisi Fuanga moves back to right tackle where he's best. You put Kelvin Banks at left tackle where he's best. Clint Kubiak's there now. He runs the Shanahan zone run scheme. That's what Banks has done at Texas. They run a wide zone scheme there. So in terms of what he's going to be asked to do in the run game and the bits to go with it, he's a scheme fit there for them. I think he's another power guy who's going to fit him really well. And if he balls out, you're going to have a left guard out of him in the future, a high level one as well. But I just think I think he's going to be tackled at the next level. I like what he's all about. And I think, it's the more sensible decision instead of going the quarterback just now.
It's not Clint Kubiak in New Orleans anymore.
Of course it's not.
It's Doug Nussmeier.
Fucks its face, isn't it? Anywho, I would have Kelvin Banks here regardless.
Oh, it makes sense, I was about to say, because you're thinking big brain, because obviously build it up for a certain QB coming out of LSU next year.
Potentially. And I think, you've got to give Rattler a chance. I think he showed enough. It's a waste of a QB pick here for me. I don't think they should do it. They're not in a position to do it. And if they're going up for 2, I don't know what draft capital they're going to leave themselves with. It ain't much. So I just don't think the draft capital's there for them.
How funny would it be, instead of drafting the son, if they drafted the quarterback from Texas next year instead? Anyway.
True.
Anyway.
If it comes out.
I mean, if the Saints aren't picking the top 5 next year, I'll be very surprised, to be honest. So why not play for the future? But the Saints never play for the future. That's not who they are, unfortunately. For them, anyway. You have now Jacksonville on the clock after trading down with Chicago for Jonty. And Jacksonville, who have you got for them?
So, again, with them moving down now, they're loaded on picks. They've got 11 picks on the draft at this point. So I think any immediate needs they have can be put to one side. I've got them taking Tyler Warren at this point, the tight end. I think for them, you want to build around Trevor. You want to give Trevor more options. If you've got Brenton Strange there at the minute, but after that, you've not got a great deal at the position. And of course, Warren, for his blocking ability, you'll bring him in. I think he's a great, across the numbers option for Lawrence to throw at here. He's immediately going to upgrade their tight end room, immediately going to give him a safety net option to be able to throw towards. And as I say, you've got a lot of picks later if you want to start maneuvering around in the top 100 to come up for an offensive lineman to fix around there to get some interior guys. You can do that. You can leave your board open, but I think Warren getting to 10 and getting an extra pick out of it is good business for the Jaguars. I do like the thought of Warren going there. I think he'll fit them quite nicely. So yeah, I've got Jacksonville trading back and then getting Tyler Warren at 10.
So I still got Chicago at 10. They couldn't be convinced to go up for Jonty for me. And so they have their natural pick here at 10. And have a look at what the Chicago Bears need, and obviously what's happened to them at head coach. With Ben Johnson coming in, you've got to figure, given how reluctant he was to leave Detroit, that he negotiated to have a huge amount of power in this decision. So I'm picking specifically on what I think Ben Johnson will do here. And so you have a look at the Bears, and they've invested heavily on the defense, and so I don't think that pick will go in that direction, even though I think it might be best spent there. I'm having a look at that offensive line, and is it fixed? Not yet, but with Jonah Jackson and Joe Tooney, that is part of the way there. So I don't think the offensive line's going to get hit either, but what they did have was Keenan Allen walking away at the end of last season after trading for a big-bodied wide receiver. And some people will say this is an overdraft, and some people will say that this person has fallen to them. But I have the Arizona wide receiver Tetrio McMillan going here at pick number 10. I thought, what would I like the least? Ben Johnson's a smart guy. This is a sort of pick where I can go, okay, maybe it's a luxury pick when you've got DJ Moore and Rome Odunze. At the same time, when you have Cole Kmet, and I know that our resident Bears fan is actually looking at the idea of going Tyler Warren here or Colston Loveland or something like that as a weapon. But for me, McMillan provides that other skill set which they just don't have at that position. You know, Moore is a good X-ish kind of player, but actually kind of is a good gadget-y slot player too. He's a versatile wide receiver. Odunze's, again, versatile, but is quite a nice Z. They don't really have an X for me. And McMillan is just a different player to the other two of them. It makes them a lot more versatile. They should invest in Caleb Williams. It should be running back, but there's so many others down the draft, and Ben will know that. So I don't think Ben will actually have urgency here to go running back early. I think he'll be content to go later on in the draft. So McMillan, for me, is the best value pick in the best position of need for them.
Surely he would have learned from Brad, though, that you can sit and wait on receiver. It's the deepest position in the draft, usually.
Yeah, but running back this year. So, anyway. Ryan Farden has gone for Tyler Warren, but to the Bears here, which I actually think low-key is a very, very reasonable and good pick. They've brought on Durham Smythe as tight end 2 at the moment. He's a tight end 3 for me. Cole Kmet is solid, but you can probably do better. Warren obviously has a very lovely skill set that you can build around. Ash, what have you gone for here? You have Chicago on the clock. And you have John C. Not Yet gone.
Yeah, so I've gone for, again, it's the easy pick. For me, it's because given Randall L's comments about Rome Odunze, I think they believe in him. They want him to be their wide receiver 1. Completely agree that DJ Moore is a good gadgety player, but he'll play their Z. And then you've got Zacchaeus, who people might remember as the guy who caught that infamous touchdown against the Philadelphia Eagles that David Blau drew up, who is basically a regen of Khalif Raymond and will play in the slot for them. So for me, their wide receivers, at least the initial sort of guys, are set. Behind it, it's a bit iffy. You've got Maurice Alexander, Tyler Scott, and Devin Duvernay, all of whom are slots, and then Samori Toure. But as I've hinted at, receivers nice and deep. There'll be guys in round 2 and round 3 that can fit the kind of roles that you want. Because I'm hoping we get some Trey Harris, for instance, Higgins, Jalen Noel, both from Iowa State. So they can sit and wait on receiver. Instead, they go for perhaps the last blue chip player on the board in Oshin Gionti. Because, yeah, the kind of set of running back DeAndre Swift is reasonable. Roshan Johnson's really good, underrated. Travis Homan, Ian Wheeler, meh, whatever. But we know, Ben Johnson knows that Swift doesn't fit his scheme. Swift knows he doesn't fit Johnson's scheme. Jonty will be able to, and suddenly you have that 1-2 punch, the hammer and the lightning with Roshan Johnson, Ashton Jonty. Takes the pressure off Caleb to be able to run the ball behind, completely reformed interior. Joe Tooney, one of the best left guards and one of the best guards in the league, full stop. Jonah Jackson will be playing out position at right guard, but he's still a good upgrade on what they already had. And then Drew Dolman, who is currently paid more than Frank Ragnow, well, he better be an upgrade on the centers they've had the past couple of years. And that's not named Cody Whitehair back when he was in his prime. They've got the interior to what Johnson needs. Now they need that sort of running back one to really take the load, and that's Jonty for me.
You're back on the clock at 11, and San Francisco traded up from here with Vegas. So Vegas on the clock at 11 for you, Ash. Who have you taken?
Well, we've just said that teams need a receiver, and who better to help Geno Smith than Ted McMillan, who can be his DK Metcalf? And suddenly that wide receiver room in Vegas looks a lot better with Tet and Jacoby Myers as your 1 and 2, and then you can mix in Caton and Trey Tucker and Alex Bachman, and Carl Phillips, who they took last year, I believe, as kind of, well, no, they picked him up this year actually, but you can mix them in the slot. But suddenly you've got two guys to run your two receiver, two tight end sets with Bowers and Mayer, and suddenly that offense looks a whole lot better. You can run the ball, you can throw. It just gives them a lot of options, because right now Jacoby Myers is your wide receiver 1. It's passable, but when you're in a position to take an upgrade there and to really fill out the X position, you snatch it up, especially when you've traded back and you've accumulated picks as well. It's a win for a rebuilding Raiders team that really needs to get some offensive firepower to keep up with the Chiefs, to keep up with the Broncos, who suddenly look good, and to keep up with the Chargers. They're finally starting to catch up ground to them.
All right, turning our attention to Ryan Farden. We have, for San Francisco, Will Johnson going here, which I think is an excellent pick. Not least because that's my pick as well. Will Johnson going to San Francisco. Didn't need to trade up for him. And if you look at Will Johnson, and I think that Ash put it very well when he went 7 to the Jets in his draft. Remarkable skill set. He's going to rebound, I think. He's going to look more like his 2023 tape in the future. And if you have a look at San Francisco's roster right now, I mean, they are starting at corner Trey Brown, Demodon Lenore, and Ronaldo Green. And while Lenore is good and Green is ascending, good, but, you know, and then Trey Brown, okay, sure, they have a glaring need for a high-end, high-floor, high-ceiling cornerback. And that's exactly what Will Johnson is. So this is just looking at that god-awful defense from last year and saying, okay, yeah, we really need someone who can defend the run, but at 11, I really don't like taking any of the defensive line or edge players on the board here. The other glaring need is corner. Let's take a corner. Will Johnson is there. He should have gone earlier than this. Simple as that. And you're on the clock here. San Francisco went up for Mason Graham at 6 with Vegas. So presumably Vegas are on the clock here. Who have you picked?
Again, me and Ash made the same trade up with the same team, and then we made the same positional pick when it comes to who the Raiders are going to take when they come back. Now they need the run game help and everything, but with the extra picks they got 11 picks now to work with, and you know, you can fix your run game later on. I do believe they need a receiver desperately in this draft, and it doesn't matter whether it's a slot, an X, or Y, whatever the hell, they need a good receiver, period. So I looked at it and I gave them the guy I believe is the best receiver in the draft, potentially, Matthew Golden out of Texas. I believe he's the X factor. He is the one who, you know, of course, there's a little bit of nervousness there. He's not been up there that long, the experience, but he's the one who can be, he's the mystery box where you win yourself a luxury yacht in there. Like, he could be that good. He's a field stretcher. He's a dynamic playmaker. He's your home run hitter who's going to give Geno Smith like his Tyler Lockett-esque play, who's just going to whiz downfield at speed line. You can break the field open with it, basically. You can open the run game up. I think he's the high impact, high floor player that they would look at. And I think this will be a really good fit for him as well. So I agree. The Raiders need receiver help. They get it with Matthew Golden from Texas.
Back on the clock now, 12. And Dallas are on the clock. Who have you gone for?
I'm sticking with receivers, and this is where Ted McMillan goes for me to Dallas. Obviously, they are in need of receiving help as well. You've got CD Lamb there, obviously, but you do need a genuine outside threat there as well, a physical presence on the outside. That is what Tetiora McMillan is. It's a new weapon for Dak as well. Obviously, you want to give him as many opportunities, as many playmakers as possible. They got a good tight end room there. You got a pair of great receivers to go with, and he offers them something that they don't really have at this moment. And Dallas, more than anybody, are known for taking on players who have potential character issues, and with that, so with his whole not watching tape shit and all that, I think they were more willing to overlook that than a lot of other teams will. Um, so for me, the fit's there. They will overlook any issues. Tet should go high. I don't agree with him falling into the 20s or anything like that. I don't think he's going to fall that far. I think the Cowboys are the home where he will be allowed to flourish and allowed to be him without having to change. Some other teams would not take as kindly to it. But yeah, I just think it's a good fit. I think he's great for Dak. I think he'll do really well there.
So I've got Dallas, and Dallas are going to stick here, and I'll have a look at this Dallas team and the reason why they're picking 12, and one of them is obviously Dak went down. But I don't think a lack of weapons at wide receiver really did for them in this situation, at least in a situation where they could potentially solve that later on in the draft. As Asher said, wide receiver's always deep, so why do you need to force the issue here? So Golden, was a thought that I had, but then I had a look at this team, and I had a look at what they lost last year, and the biggest loss, I think, for me is DeMarcus Lawrence. So if I have a look at what Dallas like in a defender like this, they really value athleticism much in the same way I think that Indianapolis do. And so while lots of people may hoot and laugh at this, some people may think this is a terrific value pick. But I am going to go with here Shamar Stewart. Texas A&M edge player, obviously all the traits in the world, twitchy, wasn't really asked to rush the passer. He's going to be given a new lease of life here. The starter at the moment at left defensive end is Dante Fowler. That cannot be the case come September. They must have someone who's going to come in and start with Fowler coming in as a rotational piece. It's not going to be Sam Williams. It's not going to be Dante Fowler. It has to be someone else. So Stewart, he's not who I'd pick, but he's definitely a Dallas type player. And I mean, staying in state. So, I think this makes all the sense in the world. Ryan Fard has gone with Tet McMillan. I think this is a very popular pick here. Dallas taking Tet McMillan at 12. And Ash, Tet isn't on the board here for you. Who have you gone with?
I've done a combination of the both of you. So I've taken an edge rusher because I completely agree. The Cowboys can hit receiver round 2, round 3 and still get a pretty decent guy to complement CD. But yeah, it was the defensive issue last year. Losing to Tank Lawrence is hurting them. I saw exactly that they're starting Dante Fowler. And so they take arguably one of the best edge rushers in the class, who unfortunately just had some character concerns that made him transfer from Virginia and all that, and the stuff that happened in high school. It's a perfect combination of some character issues, but a really damn good player. Combine them together and you get a Dallas Cowboys player, Mike Green from Marshall.
I love the fact that you went character issues, Dallas. Let's go.
Exactly. I mean, they've got Sam Williams still on their roster, the guy from, that in the draft process a couple of years ago had a Georgia incident, as they were now infamously called, because it seemingly every Georgia player has one of these these days.
I've just seen a lovely stat, by the way, on a totally unrelated topic. I just need to bring it to your attention on Twitter. If Liverpool hadn't played a game since December 22nd, they'd still have more points than Manchester United. Sorry, just one for Steve Collins, so I know he's listening. Anyway, just want to pile on. Anyway, Ash, you're back on the clock at 13 with the Miami Dolphins. Who have you gone for?
And I have Miami pulling off an absolute masterstroke and pulling off a San Francisco on Chicago move from a good couple of years ago, getting the Indianapolis Colts to trade up one spot to secure the guy they really want, making it feel like we want him, you've got to come and get him. So they trick the Indianapolis Colts to send pick 114 and picks and pick 151 in the 5th round for 113 and pick 231 in the 7th to come up one spot and trade up for the guy that everyone knows the Colts wants. Anthony Richardson needs his safety valve to throw to when things are getting a bit tough. They're getting that guy in Tyler Warren, who we're able to help in the receiving game, we're able to help in the run game, and can play a bit of fullback for them. It's the perfect marriage of everything, and Miami absolutely pulled down the Colts' trousers and make them look like absolute fools.
Ryan on the clock here with Miami has gone for what I think is a very popular pick at the moment on the consensus mock draft, which is Colston Loveland out of Michigan going to Miami. I have no idea what I've picked for all of this, if I'm honest. I have gone with... Why did I do this? I need to actually have a think about this. Kelvin Banks Jr. goes to Miami at 13. Let's have a quick look before I spout a load of rubbish at Miami's draft here, position here. Okay, so my thinking on this, I think, is that Banks is someone I primarily see kicking inside. And so if you have a look at Miami's offensive line, which has been a real problem, and you've got to protect Tua. You've got to protect Tua, and the offensive line is absolute rubbish. If you have a look at the weakest player on that line, there's a few picks you could make, but at the moment their line is Patrick Poole, 2nd round of last year, Liam Eichenberg, Aaron Brewer, James Daniels, they've just brought in from Pittsburgh, and Austin Jackson. I think the weakest player there is probably Liam Eichenberg, who I don't think has been terrific for them at left guard. So this is a direct replacement with Banks coming in at left guard. And Poole had a really good year last year, but you know, it was only his rookie season, and let's see how that pans out. Banks gives you a second option at left tackle if Poole gets injured or doesn't play as well in his sophomore year, and will slot into left guard. And then Eichenberg provides really good interior offensive line backup as well. So this is Miami looking after, you know, the massive investment they've made in Tua. And if you have a look at the offense they've got otherwise with A-Chan and Jalen Wright, and now they've got Alexander Mattison in there as well at tight end. They've paid Jonnu Smith. They've still got Tyreek Hill. Is he going to be there? I don't know. But Jalen Waddle, Nick Westbrook-Akine. They've got D. Eskridge too. Like, this is an offense ready to go as long as Tua can stay healthy. If they don't go offensive line here, I do think they're asleep at the wheel, to be honest. And 13, Miami. What are you doing?
I mean, for me, they've got 10 picks in the draft. If they want to sort the interior of their offensive lineup, they can do it later on. What they don't have is a franchise corner going forward because Jalen Ramsey's going to be going bye-bye soon. And even if he did stay, they need a legit corner opposite him. And I know this is a very popular one again at the minute. Again, not going to the popularity of it, but Will Johnson, I've said many a times, has the potential to be the most talented player Michigan have produced in the last decade, maybe more. I think he is incredible, and it's just the injury he's had the last year which has sort of brought down what he's about. But he's a franchise corner. He just is. If he stays healthy, he's going to be a franchise corner for over a decade, and he will fit right in that Miami system. You know, he's just a ball hook. The productivity's there. The amount of pick sixes he got, like he's a legitimate game changer. And even if Ramsey doesn't go this year, if he goes next year, he'll be the guy who steps into his shoes right away. And, you know, the drop off is a lot less. The need for Miami at corner is huge. And Will Johnson should not be here in the draft, but he is. So I'm making the very sensible pick, and I'm getting my next franchise corner for them.
Perfect scheme fit for him as well, because Anthony Reader comes from the exact tree that he used to run at Michigan.
Exactly. So, you know, you've got everything you need there with him. Will be a good pick by Miami.
And you're back on at 14 with Indy.
And yeah, I keep saying I keep feeling like I'm taking the easy ones today. Maybe I am. I don't care. They need a tight end in Indy. Tyler Warren's gone at this point. So for me, the better of the two tight ends is on the board still. Colston Loveland out of Michigan. Michigan players back to back. And I actually think Colston is more of the gritty, hard-nosed type player that Indy like to draft. I think out of the two of the tight ends, Loveland fits the Colts better. And again, you say you want a blanket for Richardson or Daniel Jones, whoever, to be able to throw at. He will be that guy for them, and he'll give them some much needed steel on the offensive line as well, which has not been the best blocking in recent years. So you get a bit of a 2-for-1 with him, but for me, he's a chain mover. You know, you're on tough third down situations, you need an easy out. He's going to be the guy you do it. Colston Loveland from Michigan to the Colts, for me, yeah, it's a very easy one.
So they definitely want to go tight end. And I still have both of the top guys available, so I just think they're going to prefer Tyler Warren. But, you know, it's one of those things where Indy are going to want someone at tight end, so pick your best one. Ryan Farden has gone for Kelvin Banks here, which I think is a very interesting play for the Colts. Let me just have a look at the Colts a minute.
Yeah, I can kind of see it a tiny bit. I know they've obviously got.
You'd have to kick him out to the right-hand side, wouldn't you? So
Yeah,
at the moment, left-hand side of the line for the Colts is Ryman and Quentin Nelson. So you're not putting him in there. So maybe you're putting him in at right guard instead of Concalves?
Yeah, and then what it'll be then is he's there, and then when Braden Smith, who has had some injury concerns, if he ever gets injured, you can slide him there then at right tackle.
That's some logic. Okay, cool. Interesting, though. I don't think that's a direction that a lot of people projecting the Colts go, but there seems to be some logic to it. Ash, what about you? You have Miami on the clock now.
Speaking of Kelvin Banks Jr., I have Miami pulling off a massive stroke, getting the Colts to jump up one, picking up a few more picks and some higher picks, and taking the guy I probably would have taken anyway. Just insert Matt's conversation about Kelvin Banks a couple of minutes ago. The offensive line needs a bit of work. I agree. It's the left-hand side that needs the sort of patchwork. Like Brewer, while undersized, spoiler alert, he is a very good comparison for Willie Lampkin, who's coming out. Small, bit undersized, but he's able to use his leverage to win. Good. James Daniels is a good guard. Austin Jackson, while not being the best right tackle, is good enough. It is that left-hand side that needs work. Kelvin Banks will slot in either one of those positions and completely upgrade it. And suddenly, especially on that blind, like sort of the back end where Tua probably needs some help. He does have a bit of the Jared Goff in him where he actually suffers more, where this sort of the pressure's coming. You can't kind of see it. You show up his blind side because remember, this is the side he can see because obviously he is a lefty, so he faces that way. Stops the pressure coming in his face. Gets an extra half a second or so to release the ball deep to all three speedy receivers because obviously Nick Westbrook-Ikini they've brought in, deep threat for the Titans last year, who pretty much had as many touchdowns as did catches, and they've still got Jalen Waddle there and Tyreek Hill for now. So perfect sort of slotting for them, and then they can come back in the second round and maybe pick up a corner who's fallen or something else that they need.
Ash, you're back with Atlanta at 15.
Yeah, and I have the other Georgia edge rusher staying in state. We all know that the Falcons do love to pick their Georgia guys, and they need some help at the edge room because, let's be frank, it ain't exactly good, especially when you've got Raheem Morris still as your head coach for now. He'll definitely be happy with some help on the defensive side of the ball. Same with Jeff Ulbrich, who they brought in as their defensive coordinator. You might remember as the Jets coordinator last year, became the interim head coach. Because when you're starting Arnold Ebiketie, who's okay as one, but then suddenly your other starter is Leonard Floyd or, D'Angelo Malone or Braylon Trice, that guy who everyone loved last year, who got the most pressures in the FBS, but unfortunately injury stuff's there. They need an upgrade there. So suddenly you take Markel Williams. He's a good flex piece where he'll play outside linebacker, but then in certain situations when they go to more of an even front, they drop Duke Rockero off the field. Suddenly they go to an even front. He can do it. He can put his hand in the dirt as well. It's the perfect fit for their scheme, and he doesn't have to stray too far from where he's been the past couple of years.
Ryan Farden with Atlanta on the clock has gone for Shamar Stewart. So similar line of thinking, similar-ish players in some ways, but has gone in the other direction. What am I doing here? What am I doing here? Well, I've gone for Mike Green. Similar line of thinking, but potentially the higher upside rusher. I mean, Mike Green, I think, is the enigma of the entire draft. The character concerns with him have not gone away. In fact, I think they potentially have gotten louder through the process. But the skill on tape is undeniable. And so how far does he fall? Well, Micah Parsons fell to, was it 11? With his character concerns, not as serious, potentially, even though they were not great. With Green, if teams buy it enough, he's not going to go in round 1. But if teams don't buy it at all, he could be a top 10 pick. Here, I split the difference. Goes to Atlanta, who really need an edge defender. They need any defender. Anyone who's willing to play. And in Green, they'd take my top guy on the board in terms of quality of player. And you're now up at 15 with Atlanta too.
I don't have Atlanta here, so my trade crazy starts again. Atlanta only have 5 picks in this draft. I think they are ripe for wanting to go back and accumulate a little bit extra, and I think there's a team who's going to come up with them. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they give up 19 and 84 to come up to 15 with Atlanta. So Atlanta not moving too far back, but they get an extra pick that they require out of it. And for a player that they really, really like, who I think is going to fit in their scheme to a T, and they really need him, this is where Jihad Campbell goes for me out of Alabama. Now, I know there's concerns about his shoulder and the work he's had done in the offseason there, but for me, there's a very simple equation here. Their concern about getting jumped for him will be greater than their concern about his injury. I think they're really interested in this guy, given where he played on that Bama defense, outside rush linebacker role, which we're going to want. You can play him on the edge. You know, they're quite flexible with it. And I think that they're going to be thinking primarily about Brad Holmes coming up for him potentially out of one of these guys. So I think they're just going to move themselves up far enough up the field. They're not giving up too much in the grand scheme of things, but from all intents and purposes, everything I've seen, they love this guy, and they need a guy like this. They need to redo that front seven. It's what they're all about. It's the bread and butter of that team. They don't want him going to an NFC rival potentially, so they keep him out of the way. And as say, Atlanta gains some much needed draft capital. I like the thought of Jihad Campbell playing in Tampa Bay. I think he'll be an absolute menace there. I think he would do very well. So yeah, Tampa are coming up and making a bit of a splash for their guy that they really want.
Coming back to you, and at number 16 with Arizona, surely you've not done another trade.
I've done another trade.
Oh, my goodness me.
So this is the point where obviously Shedeur Sanders is still on my board. He hasn't gone at this point. I don't buy the fact. I agree with the sentiment that there are going to be more quarterbacks picked at the start of round 2 than there are in round 1 altogether. I just don't think teams are going to bulk and come up for these guys. If you want them, you take them right away. You don't wait for them, and you don't come up and waste resources on them later. But the Steelers have been sat waiting. There is the possibility that somebody in the early 30s thinks, oh, maybe we could make a splash back up into the teens and come get the quarterback as well as the guy we've got. So again, the Steelers just going to make a little trade forward. It's not going to cost them much. 21, 123, and potentially a future pick I've put in there as well. Not really hindering them that much for this year for pick 16. The Steelers come up and get Shedeur. I don't believe that Jackson Dart is the favorite of the two of them. I believe Shadeur's got a lot more upside. I think he fits. I think profile-wise, Shadeur's tough. People don't understand how tough of a quarterback he is, and I think he has the mold of being a Pittsburgh Steeler, where he can go there and work very well on that team. And you know, they're trying to invest heavily in the run, take a little bit of the pressure off him in year 1. Hell, you don't even have to play him if you don't want to. You can still get Aaron Rodgers. You can still get a bridge. It doesn't really affect what you're doing there. But I do see if Shadur falls far enough, I think the Steelers will be tempted to just come up and make sure they're the ones that get him. Because I think the only reason people mock Dart to them is that Shadur's not there at this point. If it's a straight up choice between Shadur and Dart, I don't think there's a choice in it. I think Mike Tomlin will pick Shadur. So yeah, another little trade. Because again, Cardinals only have 6 picks as well. Another team who's just a little light on draft capital just gives them a little something later on, and their draft needs can still be met.
All right, this is maybe the pick I'd struggle with the most in the entire thing. I'm picking for Arizona here at 16. Like I said, I think I've only done one trade. So for the rest of these, it will be in their natural pick position. So Arizona, I look at their team, and I don't see an obvious position where I think the one player is worse than the other. I don't see an obvious position where I'm like, they have to upgrade this guy. And so that makes it really tough. You know, would you want to say, I'd like another edge defender instead of Calais Campbell or Baron Browning, or I'd like to put someone else in there? Well, maybe, but they've got Justin Jones and Zayvon Collins in the rotation. Maybe that's good enough, and LJ Collier. Would they like another DT? Got Dalvin Tomlinson and Darius Robinson, but maybe that's not enough pass rush in there, potentially. Maybe get a dynamic guy. There's some DTs here that would kind of fit. You know, Walter Nolan, I think, would be a really interesting pick there. But otherwise, at corner, you can do better than Sean Murphy-Bunting, but he's an underrated player. Max Melton, I absolutely love. Garrett Williams is great. Jalen Thompson and Buda Baker at the safety. So defense-wise, I think you can get away with not. DT maybe, but otherwise, it's okay. Offensive line, I think, is low-key good. Maybe you can upgrade right tackle with, you've got Jonah Williams there, but I think they have to kind of run with him at this point. We've got Paris Johnson in there. They've just paid Trey McBride. James Conner, underrated, maybe one of the best running backs in the league. Just not flashy, but gets it done. The only player that I looked at from this starting 11 on either side of the ball and thought, maybe you can do better, is Zay Jones. Mm-hmm. I saw Marvin Harrison, I saw Michael Wilson, and I thought those are two slightly bigger bodied guys who maybe don't quite have the juice down the field. Now, for me, we've still got Matthew Golden on the board here, and so that kind of fits neatly into need plus maybe BPA. So Matthew Golden is the pick here for me for Arizona at number 16 as a kind of, let's cross everything else off which doesn't make sense and see what remains in a sort of Sherlock Holmesian sort of way. So Golden is Arizona. Ryan Farden is next, and Ryan is going for Mike Green here. So I did say edge potentially. You could look at putting someone in the rotation, so I think Green's going to make some sense. Ash, you've also got Arizona here. Who are you going for?
So, as you said, they could maybe upgrade at edge. Maybe they could upgrade at DT, and that's where I've gone because as much as, obviously, I know they selected Darius Robinson last year, the other interior spot, I know Dalvin Tomlinson from the Cleveland this year. I don't actually love him. I don't love the rest of their, most of their DT depth. Like Bilal Nichols is okay, rotational nose tackle. But then you've got Dante Stills, who selected out of West Virginia a couple of years ago. He hasn't really done too much. Ben Still, PJ Mustafa. So I've given them a guy who can at least learn behind Tomlinson and maybe Calais Campbell as well. Play his trade a bit, and then next year and rotate in, and then by the start of next year, suddenly you've got potentially Darius Robinson and Derek Harmon starting for you on the interior, and that's pretty scary when you're going up for the other teams you're going up against, because they're able to dominate the interior of your offensive line. I know obviously they go up against two outside zone teams currently in the 49ers and the Rams. They're able to get the penetration on there and sort of stop the outside runs before they get too far outside. And then Seattle love to run the ball. So it's kind of a combination of stop the run and then be able to pin your ears back and get to the QB. I think it's a decent upgrade for them. He'll slot into that interior rotation right next to Darius Robinson. Dalvin Tomlinson can suddenly become a rotational run-down guy. And he can learn from Calais Campbell as well if you want to kick him outside some sort of 3-4 defensive end thing if they want to go to those kind of looks, because I know they've got Sweat and Browning who are more lighter outside linebacker kind of edges for me. So suddenly they've got a bit of flexibility to play odd and even fronts with Harmon then flexing between 3-4 defensive end and then the sort of free tech position that Aline plays for us.
That's a really good pick. That's a really, really good pick. Ash, Cincinnati, 17.
Yep, they've invested a hell of a lot on the offensive side of the ball, obviously, with Trey Higgins and all the extensions they've done. I would love to upgrade the interior of their offensive line. I know, obviously, they're starting Cordell Velson right now at left guard, but it wasn't the offense that was their downfall last year. It was that defense, to the point where it got one of my sort of underrated defensive coordinator guys, Leon Rue, fired. I know they've obviously hired Al Golden, the former Notre Dame defensive coordinator, to come in. They've got Trey Hendrickson. Let's get him a running partner because Joseph Asai ain't exactly doing it for me. Miles Murphy, the drafted, I know last year, could do it, but again, upgradable. So I gave them the wild swing at the bat and got them Shamar Stewart. It's a swing. It might be a swing and a miss for them, but they just need something to inject that defense with vigor and upside. And Stewart does that because suddenly you can start him at that over the defensive end spot against Hendrickson on certain downs because he's kind of got the weight to him, the way that Texas A&M like to play. You can move him inside and pass him down to take off BJ Hill, put Miles Murphy over defensive end spot in a sort of NASCAR package style thing. And suddenly that defensive line looks a lot better for the Bengals. And suddenly the guys behind them won't have to cover for as long because they've got some good defenders. Like DJ Turner's a good corner. Jordan Battle was kind of underrated at that strong safety spot. Geno Stone can hopefully bounce back to what he was with Baltimore a couple of years ago when he had a Kirby Joseph season and led the league in interceptions. Dax Hill was great, sort of throwing branch guy. Suddenly now they have to cover for 1 second less. They might be able to pick off the ball. They might be able to force turnovers. They might be able to keep the offense in the game where suddenly Joe Burrow doesn't have to play like an MVP and then hurt himself to stay in games. More balanced team. They can start to contending in the AFC again.
Ryan Farden with Cincinnati has gone for Tyler Williams from Ohio State. I have gone for the other Williams, Michael Williams. So Cincinnati is another interesting one to pick for just because of where their priorities lie and where they invest picks. I think this is predicated on Hendrickson not being long for that team, but it's just such a hard one to call, you know. I mean, they invested Miles Murphy in that position as well. In years gone by, they've had Joseph Asai, Cam Sample, but, you know, they're getting on now. They need something on that defense, I think. It should bounce back a little bit. It was all at sea last year. Another edge rusher, especially one that can set the edge, is nothing to pass up. And Cincinnati.
So yeah, they need an edge rusher. Plain and simple, like that should be right high on their boards. And having a look at the kind of guy they go for, they value highly athletic, traitsy guys over guys who traditionally have had a lot of production and are more technically gifted than their superiors. 4 of the last 6, I think they said they've drafted have high, very high RAS scores, and that is what they look for. And it just so happens to be one very highly athletic, traitsy guy in the draft this year who needs a home anywhere but Detroit. Whoever takes him, I will send you a cookie with with my thanks written onto it. But I think this is where Shamar Stewart will go. Obviously, Sam Hubbard's gone from there. He's retired. Trey Hendrickson is on the trade block. Hopefully, you would think they'd keep him for maybe another year or so, but they go for the high level hit here. They need to hit on somebody who's going to be incredibly high level, and he has the potential to be. And he fits the mold of the guy that they like to draft. Like they say, very, very traitsy, very athletic. So I'm going by their past history of what they've done, and they get Shamar Stewart.
And you have Seattle back up, and you've done the thing which a lot of people have mocked, and yet, given Seattle's history, is maybe not the thing that they've done in previous years.
Potentially not, but when you invest a hella load of money in Sam Darnold, you need to keep Sam Darnold upright because you can have all the offensive weaponry in the world like the Minnesota Vikings did, but when you start getting to him, he starts to crumble, and specifically on the interior, they've got issues and they need to get better at that. And I think that you need to strengthen up and here I will be taking one of the more versatile options. He gives you an option at center. He gives you an option at guard. You know, there's potentially many different ways you can use him, but he's tough as bones. You know, he is a great run blocker. He obviously comes from a system where they block for the run day in, day out. Seattle want to get that run game going more. They've got a good stable of running backs there. I've got them going Grazer Bell. Now, for me, you know, like you said, pick 12, pick 32, there's no difference in the level of talent in this draft. He could go late in the first, he could go early in the first, hell, he could go in the second round, who knows? But I think in terms of what they need, what they're looking for, um, I think they will go for it. They've invested a lot in that line. It was Fautanu they got not so long ago. That he potentially they said was going to be a guard at some point in the future. But I think Gray makes the most sense for me. Like he's going to give you a massive boost on that interior, and you've got to protect Sam. You just have, otherwise there's no point in paying him all that money. So yeah, I've got Grazer Bell going to the Seahawks.
So I think this is a really interesting pick because I think the offensive line makes sense. I think the guard makes sense, and yet I just don't see Seattle doing it. I don't think it's who they are, and even though it makes sense and Ant makes the absolutely perfect case for it, I don't think they'll pull that trigger. I don't think they can bring themselves to be those people that draft a round one guards. They might draft a guy in round 3 and say, you're our starter, maybe. Or maybe they'll go with Anthony Bradford. I don't know. But it doesn't feel like a move for me that they'll make. I'm having a look at the rest of their roster, thinking, where can they improve? Well, they've brought in DeMarcus Lawrence. They've obviously got Boye Mafe and Leonard Williams on the edges. So they've got some pass rush in there. Byron Murphy, Jaron Reed. So I think defensive line's okay. The back 5, I think, is also fine too. Could you maybe improve at cornerback over Josh Jobe? Maybe. But otherwise, I'm looking at linebacker. And at the moment, they traded for Ernest Jones, who I really like. I think that works. And Chen Wosu is a good player. Tyrese Knight. Yeah, I'm not sure. What they need is the best linebacker in the draft. And so I've gone with Jihad Campbell. I think in terms of being someone who could bring that pass rush upside, but also can just play in that off-ball spot, you have a look at how good Seattle are on defense, and I think that completely changes who they are into one that was already dynamic without it, but with DeMarcus Lawrence coming in and now Jihad Campbell on that team, they become fearsome on that side of the ball. And then you hope that Jackson Smith and Jigba and Cooper Kupp can provide that help that Sam Darnold needs in terms of quick relief underneath. I think that's going to be their route to success, and maybe they can try and draft a guard in round 2 or round 3. So Jihad Campbell for me to the Seattle Seahawks. Ryan Farden is next up, and he went for Matthew Golden. A lot of people are talking about wide receiver for them, and that makes a lot of sense given the skill sets involved there. Ash, what have you gone for?
I'm with Ant because you can give Sam Darnold all the weapons in the world. It comes back to that sort of the Bengals debate from a couple of years ago, Chase versus Saul. I think the fact that Zabel has 5 position flexibility will convince Schneider to go against his type and draft an interior guy because he can convince himself by saying, "Oh no, it's a replacement for Abe Lucas." And then when it comes to training camp, they'll put the best 5 out. He'll just say, "Oh, it's an offensive lineman, it's a replacement for Abe Lucas, who was constantly hurt last year for the past couple of years. We're replacing him, upgrading on him, and then if we can upgrade the interior by moving people along, that's great." It just makes all sense because you've got to protect him. Because the tackle, left tackle, Charles Cross, great. Don't need to touch him. Center, obviously you got one of the best ones from a couple of years ago. But you need to upgrade that interior, no way. And then you cut the flexibility then that, if Abe Lucas gets himself hurt again, you're certainly not relying on Josh Jones or Michael Gerald to play there. You can move Zabello and then move one of the other guys you're replacing in, and it just keep the best 5 there. Plus, you won't have to rely on Anthony Bradford because that right guard spot is sewn up because, their 3rd round pick from last year, one of the best guards, will be starting for them next year. Of course, I'm not playing to someone on the panel, but for me, Zabel just makes all the sense in the world because he can play anywhere on that offensive line and they'll be happy.
You're next up with Tampa Bay at 19. Who have you got?
I've gone for the obvious one. As much as it pains me because he is one of my guys in this draft, it just makes all the sense in the world. Jihad Campbell is a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. I've got it in pen. It makes too much sense. There's a reason why, and had them trading up for him. He just fits their skill set. I kind of like it. They need to upgrade there anyway because it's not exactly the best situation outside of the obvious there for them. I can't even remember the name of the linebacker I'm trying to compare him to, but he fits that kind of a role next to Levante David to a T. The guy that when he got caught with Davis and said we should sign him, and they went to the Texans and did fuck all. They love their blitzing linebackers. That's what Todd Bowles does. Is he blitz, and Campbell will be able to do that, but he's also got the coverage. Yeah, he needs to work a bit on his own instincts and to trust his instincts in the run as well. Sometimes he's a bit hesitant. He has a bit of Jack Campbell disease where he lets the plays come to him rather than go into them. That can be coached out of him by Larry Foote, who is their linebacker coach, who's very, very good. There's a reason why we were looking at him in this offseason. It's just the perfect marriage of scheme fit and need and positional, like the sort of BPA approach. So unfortunately, I have to be upset that we don't get one of my guys in this draft and Campbell goes to Tampa Bay.
All right, looking at what Ryan Farden has got in here for Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he has gone for Jihad Campbell as well. Now, Campbell went a pick earlier with Seattle. Tampa wanted him, but was surprised when he was taken. And if you have a look at Tampa's roster and their potential needs, it's an interesting team. Vita Vea, Kalijah Cansey in the inside, but then not a lot behind them. CJ Brewer, Greg Gaines. The rotation there is really poor. You're asking Cansey and Vea to play 100% of the snaps, or close to it. Logan Hall at the edge, Hassan Reddick, and then nothing behind them, really. I am one of the bigger Jose Ramirez fans, but even I might admit that's not the best edge rotation either. So, the starting team is really good, but it lacks a lot of depth on that defensive line. And so I'm taking the best defensive lineman on the board here to kind of go into that rotation and maybe give Cansey and Vea some rest at times. And so that means that I am going with Derek Harmon out of Oregon. Pass rush from the interior, gives Cansey a chance to flip out. Also, slightly bigger bodied guy presents a different problem that Cansey does not. So sometimes, if you want to go into 3-4 with Vea and Harmon and Cansey, I think that presents a really interesting option too. It gives them some flexibility to 3-4 as well as 4-3. And otherwise, they can all play about 60-70% of the snaps and give each other some time off, which they'll sorely need.
They are 3-4, by the way.
Well, tell that to... Oh, yes. Anyway, my bad. Oh, Logan Hall. Blech. I don't like this bloody thing. Yaya Diaby. Yes.
It's because the front three, so obviously, Vea plays one tech, Cansey plays like a sort of free tech, and then Hall plays a sort of 4i5 tech where he's more on the outside.
Brilliant. Harmon plays instead of Logan Hall, who's not lived up to expectations and has been fairly poor.
Yeah.
Even better. So they're playing 3-4, and it gives them the flexibility to play 4-3. Anyway, moving on. I'll make the argument fit somehow. Thank you for being the most Ash you can Ash. And Tampa, 19. Jihad, already taken by Tampa, 15. So Atlanta now at 19.
Yeah, so as mentioned, I got the Falcons moving back just a little bit to get an extra pick, and it works for them because there's still an edge on the board who, again, they really like and who fits what they're about, and they've got him with an extra pick in the bag. This is where Michael Williams goes at this point out of Georgia. And again, this isn't a lazy thing to say. He's a nearby talent. Obviously, Jeff Ulbrich, the new DC, he says he wants to play a varied foot. He wants to play 3-man front, 4-man front. Got to have a guy who can do both. Michael Williams has played all along that defensive line for Georgia. He plays a lot on the interior, so you can slide him in as part of that 3-man. You can slide him on the edge when you're playing, 4. You can do what you want with him, really. And again, Kirby Smart's system and how he plays it allows these guys to come up and adapt to the NFL so quick because they have this hybridness to them. And I think he'll be an absolutely slam dunk first pick there. You keep him in state, you keep him nearby, and plus you'll want to sack the quarterback. It's unreal. They said in the last 4 years they've not had a guy go past 7 sacks, which is just crazy for a team. Like, that's the level, that's how bad it's been there. For me, he's just got so much upside and he gives them so many options and so many ways to attack people. He's a little bit more versatile than some of the other guys around here who have got the higher sack numbers who you'd think about. So yeah, I got Michael Williams to the Falcons just a little later than anticipated, but it's good business for the Falcons.
The Falcons have picked at 19. Don't tell me you've done another trade with Denver at 20, have you? I've not looked. I'm just guessing.
No. Denver's still here. Don't you worry about that. So, again, with Denver, you could go one of many ways. I think it's going to be an offensive pick more than likely. But for me, well, the one thing that stands out to them last year, they had one of the worst 3-and-out rates in the entire league. Like, they just went 3 and they didn't have a chain mover on the side. They didn't have specifically a running back who can carry the load and get the dirty hard yards, and also has the receiving upside that Sean Payton likes in his running backs there. This is where running back 2 comes off the board. Amarian Hampton, for me, is absolutely perfect for the Broncos. He will carry the load like Javonte Williams used to do for that franchise. He's carried the load now at UNC for 2 years. It's been him. He's durable, he's tough, he's strong, he's a chain mover, he gets those crucial third down where, he stops you getting to that distance in the first place. But also his usage as a receiver has come on. Nearly 40 receptions from him last year, 30 the year before. We know Peyton likes guys. I'm not saying he's Alvin Kamara, but he likes a guy who can catch out the backfield as well. You have the option available again to chain move. You've got to get that 3-and-out rate up, and you've got to take some pressure off Bo Nix as well, because you don't want him to be Superman every single week. And Amarian Hampton can be his workhorse to share the load with his quarterback. And again, it's a fit that I love, and it's a fit where a player I have a lot of admiration for. I think he'll do very well very quickly.
You're giving Broncos fans PTSD flashbacks.
Good. I don't think they've ever annoyed me, so,
It has been written in chalk for some time with all of the draft nicks that this is going to be Amarian Hampton. I am not smarter than those people. I'm not smarter than Anthony Fitzpatrick. Amarian Hampton to Denver at 20. Ryan Farden has picked not Amarian Hampton. I actually want to have a look at Denver's team because I think this low-key might be a better pick. He's gone with Kenneth Grant. This is the first time we've seen him come off the board. They, at the moment, have as their starting nose DJ Jones. I think that Kenneth Grant could be an upgrade there, if I'm honest.
Definitely.
Yeah. That feels like a very shrewd pick to me. Ash, what have you done?
I've gone off the beaten, well, not so much off the beaten track. Like, I've gone for a completely different position to everyone else. I agree that they need to get better on offense, but for me, it's those receivers. Like, as much as Cortland Sutton, I do like. Marvin Mims, good speed guy. Deshaun Vele is good, but you probably want to upgrade on him. And then obviously they've got Troy Franklin and Trent Sherfield, Nate Perry, but they need someone better there. And there was someone who has fallen down the board in this point. And I think Sean Payton is the perfect person to use his versatility, his route running, his speed, his athleticism, and the way that this team used him this past year. You can use him at the backfield as well. I can see why Ant wants the Broncos fans to have PTSD flashbacks because they're now taking Luther Burden from him. he will just fit them to like a T. He'll give him in the slot. You can use him as a Z position as well. Which will put Mims in the slot. You can speed out. Then it just fits their sort of scheme to the T. He'll be the Michael Thomas without the stupid stuff as well. He just fits them perfectly, in my opinion.
I do think that's a good pick. And if you have a look at what they have starting at the moment in the slot, I mean, it's Devon Vele, apparently, or Troy Franklin.
Exactly.
Luther Burden's going to be a massive upgrade. Huge upgrade.
Ooh. Breaking news, the Lions have just posted a little teaser of their new locker rooms, and they look bloody amazing.
I have to go and check that out.
Anyway.
Ash, you're back on the clock with Pittsburgh at 21.
I'm taking the low-hanging fruit here. I really am. Jackson Dart. I know they can wait for QB. I know they've still got Aaron Rodgers hanging on the line, but it seems he's going to take forever to pick it up. As much as Mason Rudolph's okay and Skylar Thompson's okay, they need something long-term in the future. And I think Dart, well, yeah, he has played in the easy system in Ole Miss. He has the arm talent. He has the mobility to deal in that sort of environment in the AFC North. And there's weapons there for him as well. George Pickens have just traded for DK Metcalf. Calvin Austin is good in the slot, obviously upgradable, but you've got the rest of the draft. Well, if Roman Wilson's there, so you can just slide him into slots, and you've got a good starting three. Their offensive line has got better recently. Project Jones is coming onto it. They've signed Sir Marlu from Philly, who's a good guard. Zach Frazier to Pitt last year, who we loved. Mason McCormick's okay. Troy Fontana to Pitt last year, really good. Pat Frymuth, they've got the weapons there to him to use. And then if they want in the second round, they can come back for a receiver or a running back or something on that defense. But they solidify that QB position for the future. Fifth-year option with arguably that guy. I know, obviously, I agree with Advanced Assessment that Shador does have some traits they like. But when it comes to December and you're thrown in the outdoors and that cold AFC North, you want the arm strength. And that's the battle that Dart wins over Shador. And it's the guy that's available. So they take their guy. They're sorted for the next couple of years at QB unless it all implodes.
All right, we've got Ryan at 21 with Pittsburgh also going quarterback, but he's gone for Jalen Milroe at 21 instead of Jackson Dart. And you know what? Dart's blown up a lot through the process, but Milroe was quarterback 3 coming into it, and I do wonder if NFL teams might be in the same place compared to the media consensus, who have obviously pumped up Dart a lot. So it's a really interesting pick. Of course, Milroe is attending the NFL draft. If they have some idea that he might be going in this spot, it would be an inspired choice for the NFL to invite him to come if he is going to go here. For me, for Pittsburgh, I am going in a different fucking direction here. So everyone thinks that Pittsburgh really need a quarterback. And I really don't think that they are going to do to themselves what they did a couple of years ago by drafting a player at pick 20 in the only first round pick for a quarterback and him epically failing. I think they're going to say, you know what, we actually just need to make picks which are going to be safe here. And when we said that we think Mason Rudolph can be a starter, they have proved that over the years, that they think that Mason Rudolph is a better player than the rest of the league thinks. And of course, Rudolph has had plenty of time with some starts recently at Tennessee to think that he can come back and actually do some good work. So I don't think they're going to be in a rush to overdraft a quarterback here. Now, if I look at their history, I think that this is a team which feels like its identity is defense and they need to pick the low-hanging fruit, shall we say. And Malachi Starks is a player who is falling in this draft and really shouldn't be. Probably one of the better safety prospects we've seen in a number of years. At the moment, they're starting Deshaun Elliott. I mean, alongside Minkah Fitzpatrick, I think that would be an absolutely inspired play. They've got Darius Slay along with Joey Porter Jr. too. And then the rest of that defense, Patrick Queen, Peyton Wilson, Alex Highsmith, TJ Watt, Cameron Hayward, Keanu Benton, Isaiah Loudermilk. I mean, maybe you could say Loudermilk could be improved upon potentially, but otherwise, that's an incredibly good defense with Deshaun Elliott starting. Starks elevates that defense into one of being another fearsome team with no weak link potentially. So it's matching needs with the best player available at this point, and they can address quarterback in round 2 or round 3. If they went Tyler Shook in round 2 or round 3, that really wouldn't surprise me to compete, but I don't see them having the appetite here to overdraft a quarterback who shouldn't be drafted here. And Pittsburgh 21.
I don't have Pittsburgh at 21. I've got the Cardinals here at this point. Obviously, the Steelers for me traded up to get Shedeur because he fell. I've got the Cardinals on the clock, and Cardinals have invested in the edge position. They've got Josh Sweat there. You got Darius Robertson. You got guys like that. Then you go to the interior. You're old. Calais Campbell, Tomlinson. You're getting on in years. You need to start rejigging the interior of that defensive line to make it a monster. And you make it a monster by giving them the best defensive tackle in the draft after Mason Graham, and it's going to make me cry to sleep. Walter Nolan goes here, the D tackle out of Ole Miss. He is legitimate. They've obviously gone up against the likes of Aaron Donald and that for years in the NFC West, and they know just how much an absolutely disruptive talent like that can make to your defensive line. And Nolan's the finishing piece for it. You put him in there, you've got your guys on the edge, you've got him and guys ripping stuff up in the middle. I think that's going to be a really formidable Cardinals line. And, again, it would upset me. I would have us trading up at this point, but I've just not seen enough evidence the lines like him enough to do something like that. So I'm going to have them go into the Cardinals. Cardinals trade back. They get a little bit of extra picks as well, and they fix the area they need to fix on that defensive line. For me, tackle is the more pressing need for them. Walter Nolan goes there, and he's going to be crazy good, and it's going to upset me for a long time.
It would upset me too, I have to admit. Do you have the Chargers at 22? Because I'm losing track of your trades.
I've got no more outstanding trades, I don't believe. So you're good. The Chargers are still at 22, and this is the one I've been mocking since time immemorial. Kenneth Grant goes to the Chargers. They have not upgraded that defensive tackle room. They need better run defense. They need a guy, again, who's going to go in there and just provide an absolute mauling presence for them, something they don't have on that team right now. And someone who's very familiar with their head coach there, and someone who he knows him well. He'll know how to utilize him best. You got the working relationship, but it's not just that. It is the fact that it is need meeting, the two know one another, familiarity, team concepts, all that sort of stuff. They desperately need a D tackle. They take the man that Jim Harbaugh once called a gift from God. They reunite.
I'm going in a different direction, even though I think Kenneth Grant makes a heck of a lot of sense. I'm having a look at this Chargers team, and I see a massive weakness at corner. Huge weakness at corner. Starters for them in terms of the two outside corners and nickel: Dante Jackson, Cam Hart, Taib Steele. It's not setting the world on fire. This is a team which has signed Benjamin St-Juste to potentially play a reasonable amount of snaps. This is not a healthy team, ladies and gentlemen. It's really not, especially with a team that wants to base its identity, I think, on defense. Yeah, okay, fine. Given who's the head coach, you might want to go trenches here. But for me, corner's the glaring need. And so I'm going to go with the best corner on the board at this point. Someone who has that inside-outside versatility. He comes from Texas. He's called Jahdae Barron. Just think this makes all the sense in the world. Like Grant, it fits. He's going to bring the energy. He's someone who plays much bigger than himself. People want to project him to the slot. Well, if that is what happens, that's fine. But a lot of people think he's going to work at outside corner. If he goes back to safety, how long is Derwin James for this league? Don't know. But that could also be a succession plan. Long term, we'll see. I can see that I've annoyed Ash, and so I've achieved my aim here. Ash, I need to pop off for 2 seconds. Are you okay to
take over.
reveal the picks for now, and then hopefully I should be back
Yeah.
for my next pick. Cool. 2 seconds.
No worries. So we have the chairman, Ryan Farden, selected him for the Chargers. And oh my, this is going to be fun. He's got him selecting Emeka Buka, the receiver out of Ohio State. That's fun. What they're doing well. They're going for the Seattle mold of all slot receivers, it seems. But I can see why. Replacing Quentin Johnson, pushing him down the depth chart. Mike Williams, they've got as well. So yeah, it makes a bit of sense. I do like Brendan Rice though, so maybe they should begin him more. But for me, I've gone the same place as you, Ant. I've gone Kenneth Grant. It just made all the sense, as you said. Like when you're starting Tia Tart at nose tackle and former Detroit Lions sensation Deshaun Hand is your starter at your 3-4 defensive end spot, you're in a bit of trouble, aren't you? So he'll just slot in there, upgrade that, give him a bit of nastiness. And as you said, knows the head coach, knows the defensive coordinator as well, dressed him into, used to be there with him at Michigan. And he's a gift from God, supposedly. So just makes all the sense in the world, though. Everyone and their mother was mocking the running back at Michigan, so the Chargers last year, and it didn't happen. So who knows? Then at 23, Green Bay. You've just heard about him from Matt. Jahdae Barron, the corner from Texas. I'm not as high on Barron, which is why I've picked him here, because it seems Green Bay love to pick their corners in the first round who are busts. Eric Stokes a couple of years ago. I don't think Josh Jackson was a first round pick, but he was a high pick from a corner who completely busted out. I don't think Barron is going to stay at corner. They're going to try it, but then they'll probably move him to nickel or to safety, where he probably still will be a starter for them. I know, but the Boston College system pretty well, having gone up against it a couple of years with FSU, attacking kind of style. Barron can do that, but I think his instincts aren't the greatest at outside corner and the size as well. But then he can slot in maybe at nickel. But even then, they've just signed Nate Hobbs, because he'll probably be upgrade on Keyshawn Nixon as their starter at the other corner spot. But I don't see it working for them. It's just such a Packers pick that they again ignore receiver. They ignore giving Jordan Love another option to throw to. They trust Christian Watson. They trust Jaden Reed. They trust Dubs and Malik Keith and all these guys to try and veer. They trust McCall Holman to be enough. So they try and fix that corner room with Jay getting older and wanting to get it out of there. But unfortunately, they blow it like they usually do at corner. Ryan Farden also has them taking Jahdae Barron. We'll skip Matt for now. So we'll go to you, Mr. Fitzpatrick. Who do you have the Packers taking?
So for me, I was thinking Jahdae Barron here as well, but the Packers do need help on the edge opposite Rashawn Gary, and they have for a long time. And unfortunately, they've shown a big liking towards one of my favorite edges here. They've been burnt by taking more athletic guys in recent years, not looking at you, Lucas Van Ness, and not doing their job. This time they're going to want to take a guy who is athletic, who does have the traits and bits, but he has the tools and he has the production as well. I know they really like Donovan Aziruwaku, and they are going to break my heart. Tom Grossi's going to get his own back for a change, and he's going to take one of the guys I really want here on the Lions, but they need pass rush opposite Rashawn Gary. They've admitted they've had a problem getting to the quarterback as well, just kind of like we have. I would not be surprised if we tried to one-up them in this draft and go above for our favorite pass rusher and break Tom's heart again, but I just have this nagging feeling that they're going to take him. They've talked about him a lot. They have had a lot of meetings with him. They like his skill set, and his former head coach is there as well, who knows him more than anybody and probably would trust him implicitly with his evaluation of him. So I think Grant Halfley's going to get one of his stars back in Green Bay and make him a star in the league. And yeah, it's going to make me cry. Not going to lie. Yeah.
Same. Me and you, it'll be like the reaction to Jack Campbell that we had on the advert. Me and you will be very upset if and when that happens.
Exactly.
Sorry, it took longer than I thought. My pick, is it?
Yep.
Green Bay. Okay, so we've gone corner, and edge. Well, why break a habit of a lifetime? This will be an overdraft, but it will be a player in a position of need, especially with Jair Alexander with his best days behind him, probably. I'm going for someone who's fallen in the process a little bit, I think because of injury concerns, although my knowledge at this area of the draft is not particularly great. I'm going for Siobhan Ravel. Yeah, I'm not going to say too much more because I'm fairly ignorant at this point, but yeah.
He's a good pick. He is a good pick. Like, I would have picked him. It's just, as I explained with mine, they like selecting busts high at corner. So that's why they selected Barron for me, because for me, he's not going to work outside corner.
Fair enough. All right. We're with Ant, aren't we now, at 24?
Yeah.
Cool. Minnesota.
So,
not Minnesota.
not
probably.
Minnesota. I've got to trade again.
Oh my God. If you've done what I've done again, I'm going to cry.
So I've traded. I think so. Philly free agency has been tough for them on their defensive line. They've lost one of their best edge players. They've lost one of the best defensive tackles. They've got 20 picks in the next 2 drafts combined. They have more than enough ammunition to start moving around, and I think they're going to come up to get their guy. Now, one of the more polarizing figures knocking round, but if there's anybody and there's any locker room that can take somebody in who might have potential issues and fix them, it's them. And if they get the value out of him, which he could reach his full potential, this pick is going to look stupidly good in a few years. I've got them trading 32.96 or 161 to come up. The Philly Eagles, I've got taking James Pierce, the edge, out of Tennessee, because for me, again, there were concerns about Carter, etc., coming out of college and people saying, should you stay away from them? And you look at what has happened. It's, don't get me wrong, a volatile room there, but it's made a man out of most of them. And at this point, with who's left, I still think James Pierce is the most talented edge rusher out the lot of them, with the biggest ceiling out of the lot of them. And while he might fall to them, yet someone else might think the same. I think Philly, with all the picks they're going to have, are just going to make sure they're going to put him on that line. And with that interior being as disruptive it is, been as good as it is, he will probably flourish right from the off. They can just tell him to go get the passer right from the off, work on the run game stuff, work on the attitude stuff. They'll get a great pick out of it. But I think the Eagles are going to come up. And I do think it will be for James Pierce Jr. Out of Tennessee.
So, I know that Minnesota have been widely pegged to want to trade down here because they traded up a lot last year and basically they just don't have enough picks to shake a stick at. So, clearly they're going to trade down. I don't think they traded up last year to say, we're not going to take the guy we want to take this year. I think Kwesi's the smartest guy in the room. I'm going to trade up last year and I'm not going to do anything about it this year because we're just going to take our guys. We're just going to stay where we are and we're going to take our guys. And if I have a look at the Vikings, I look at this team and I think, okay, you've signed Jeff Okudah to play some meaningful snaps this season. You've signed Isaiah Rodgers to play meaningful snaps this season. You've signed Tyvier Thomas, who could play meaningful snaps this season. Yes, you've re-signed Byron Murphy. Yes, you've got Mackie Blackman. You took Dwight McLaughlin last year, who I absolutely adored in last year's draft. I think he was a UDFA. You really don't have much at corner. I'm sorry, but you don't. And so Siobhan Ravel's just gone off the board to Green Bay at 23, which spooks the Vikings that there could be a run on cornerbacks. And so it spooks them into taking the next guy on their board at corner. And the next guy happens to be Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame. He was maybe a top 10 pick coming into the season and has just fallen a long, long way if you have a look at where he's on consensus boards. And I don't believe it. Much like any other cornerback, if you've shown it once, it means you can show it all the time. You have a look at drafts gone by. Corners actually in the NFL draft minds don't fall as far as they do in the media. And Morrison should be a first-round player. So he goes round 1 to Minnesota. Ryan Farden for Mini goes Malachi Starks. This is where Starks has been mocked ad nauseum at 24 if they do stand pat at 24. So no surprise that Starks goes here. Ash, Vikings, or is it not?
It's not. a team sees that Houston are on the board next, and there's a common link that we'll probably hear about in a few minutes because I bet someone's drafted it. But it's a common link between Houston and a certain player in this draft class. But this team also probably wants them to round out a certain core. So I have the Washington Commanders trading up with Minnesota, who have fuck all picks this year. I have them have Minnesota sending one pick 24 for pick 29, 128, which is in the 4th, and then 245 in the 7th. For Washington to come up and select Emeka Ibuka, the receiver out of Ohio State, to snipe him from a reunion with his QB in CJ Stroud. And instead they pair him with Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel, who obviously they traded for in this offseason, to just round out that wide receiver core for Jaden Daniels and make it everything they can do pretty much outside of trading for yet another offensive lineman to make sure he doesn't have a sophomore slump. As much as that team going into last year was supposed to be the strength, supposed to be the defensive head coach with Dan Quinn, it's their offense. And so they add to it. They get Daniels yet another weapon, and they just make that offense still as potent in a league where, especially division, where they're going up against a resurgent Dallas Cowboys, they're going up against the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, and then a Giants team where the head coach will be coaching for his job potentially. They're going to beat teams by shooting them out. So Ibuka helps them immensely with that.
And then Houston at 25, Ash.
Yeah. So their receiver weapon's been taken, so they fall back to the next best person on their board. You look at the Houston Texans, and other than maybe that receiver position, there is one glaring hole on their team. It's admittedly a massive black hole, and that is their offensive line. As much as they've signed Cam Robinson, the guy that Minnesota traded for from the Jacksonville Jaguars and paying an absolute blinder in the pick game. I love Blake Fisher to bits. Juice is okay. Jared Patton's okay. Tyus Harris. They need a proper left tackle, and so they go for the best tackle on the board, which is Oregon's Josh Connolly Jr. He fits the outside zone scheme that the Texans love to run because, of course, they come from the Shanahan tree, so they love a bit of outside zone. Fits that to a T. Will shore up that offensive line. So Cam Robinson, I know they signed him to a 1-year deal. He can then be a flex guy. If someone gets injured, he can come in, solves that issue. Just solves them for the next 5 years plus at that left tackle position for Stroud. Lock down his blind side, make his life a bit easier because, God, if he keeps getting sacks at the rate he was last year, he ain't for the league for long.
Brian Fowler's gone for Josh Simmons. I think that's also a good fit. Mine is not as much of a good fit, I will admit. But for me, they've taken the best offensive lineman on the board. It's not a scheme fit. But that is Tyler Booker. The weak link for me is Juice Scruggs. He's fine. But you want to get someone in there at right guard for me. And I think that would... You might have to do something with him. But he's an absolute mauler in the run game. Like, powerful, strong. I don't think that the lack of athleticism is going to hurt him in the league. And also, it's going to protect Stroud. When it comes to pass protection stuff, he's the best at that left in this draft. So, okay, fine. Maybe the run fit isn't brilliant, but in terms of the pass blocking, this is going to be brilliant for CJ Stroud, and it will be great for the Texans. And Houston, or is it not Houston?
You make it sound like a trade every other pick. You know, that's just...
Well, I mean,
don't count them.
Don't count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? 5 trades so far, so involving 10 teams in a 32-team mock.
So I go to
So
official
far.
live. So I've also, in the same vein, the Houston Texans need to revamp their offensive line, like pretty much all across the board. You could make an argument for them taking a pick here, but I've gone a little bit of a different direction. So I've got a guy who gives them a need now, but potentially fills a need for the future. I'm very intrigued because he moved positions last year, and though he shouldn't work where he did, he did. And I think he's got a bit more versatility than we actually might think about him. And I've got the guard Donovan Jackson from Ohio State here. And I know he's very popular with the Lions, but he is a great left guard. And again, you're coming from a natty winning team. a team that run blocks like champions, a team that's good in its pass protection as well. He is stout. He is going to be a starter there for sure. But they moved him out to left tackle last year. They had to, for all intents and purposes. And I'll tell you what, he played damn well there. If you need a guy and just struggling, your left tackle's down, he's got a knock, he's rolled his ankle, he misses a week or two, something like that. And Cam Robinson's there for 1 year. You want a guy who can fill in for him and do a good job there. I think Donovan Jackson offers that versatility that guys like Booker do not. And so they're fixing 2-in-1 here. And if they want to try him at left tackle during the year and he somehow works out there, you don't need to draft one next year either when Cam Robinson's done. So for me, and they've visited with him as well. I've checked to see that if they've made this a possibility. He's had a top 30 there. I really like the fit here, and I like potentially what he can offer them considering what they need. So, yeah, I got Donovan Jackson going to the Texans, and I think that would be a really good pick for them.
Makes a lot of sense to me, man. I'm sold. I think it's funny that for Houston, we've all gone the same position group, but a different player for all of us. That's like when we've gone similar position groups, we've had some consistency. So that's remarkable, I think, at this point. And speaks to, I think, the depth of like second and third tier offensive line in this draft, like lower first round graded guys. But anyway, Rams 26. I don't think we've got a trade yet, and they are picking here, aren't they?
I did initially, but I've changed my mind. I so badly wanted to put Carson Schwessinger here. I really, really did. But the fact that the Rams just don't value the position, the Rams should pick Carson Schwessinger here because they have a vastly big hole at linebacker. And for me, he could be much better than what Jack Campbell's going to be for us. I think he would fit the life out of them. But they don't do that. They go elsewhere, and they do have a big need on their board at corner, which I believe some people have already addressed in their mocks here. But again, it's looking at the kind of corner they like. They like them a little undersized. They like them aggressive with an attitude. They like ball production. And there's a guy who is sort of flittering around who I know they're interested in. I know they've met with again. This is the first appearance of Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky, and I think as a guy who's going to go there and fill in their number 2 role from the off and will fit what they're all about, I think Maxwell Hairston does fit them like a glove. And I know I've not got Jahdae Barron off my list yet, but I think it's what he is what the Rams look for when it comes to their corners. And again, I know they don't really pick corners so high all the time, but I think this is more likely than the linebacker slot, and it is a big need for them. They do need to fix it. So yeah, I've got Maxwell Hairston going to the Rams at corner. I think there's a good chance.
All right, this one is going to take a bit of selling, I think, but I'm going to try. I think the Rams are going to take the best player on the board. And I think at this time, for this team looking at their team, where their needs are and where BPA lines up for them, I think that's Nick Amanwari. Safety. So we'll see what happens with this. Obviously, elite athletic player is going to need a little bit of time, I think. So he needs to walk into a situation where he's not necessarily going to be a starter right away, I think. And if you have a look at the Rams, you've got a safety Cam Curl and Cam Kinchins. So they're okay there right now. Nickel's Quentin Lake, who's a good nickel. But they really don't have a huge amount behind them that I like. Kobe Durant's fine. Josh Wallace, Jalen McCulloch, Tanner Ingle. Me neither. So in Amanwari, you've got someone who's played a lot of snaps at nickel and a lot of snaps at safety. Can provide injury insurance for both of those guys while he acclimatizes to a very complex scheme on both sides of the ball. They obviously have a lot of needs, but they've invested a lot in their defense recently. I think that's where they're going to continue to focus their attention. So I think in him, they'll see someone that they want to be an elite player in a couple of years' time. This is building for the future. Maybe that's the wrong direction for the Rams, given that they have Stafford and they've just brought in Devontae and that sort of thing. But I like the fit. I think it works for what they're going to try and do long term. Ryan Farden goes with Jackson Dart for the Rams. So Stafford's obviously signed his new deal, but how long is he going to be in this league? We don't know. Dart, I think, is an interesting successor to Stafford. Some similarities and some not. But yes, anyway. Ash.
Mine might need a bit of selling as well, but my point is Stafford always likes to have a good person at one position. Brandon Pettigrew, Eric Ebron to an extent, TJ Hawkinson. Let's get him his next favourite tight end, Colston Loveland. Helps him in the blocking in the run game because I think he's an underrated blocker in terms of his draft reports and his receiving weapon. I know they've got some weapons there already. Tyler Higbee is okay, but he's getting a bit on. Colby Parkinson's okay. Davis had in the draft a couple of years ago. He's an absolute dude as a blocker, not much else. Give him some bit of upside because their receiver corps pretty much set. Devontae Adams, Puka, Tutu Atwell, good. They can maybe upgrade the depth. That's what they can do later. It's the most hot, like it gives them a bit of an impact. I'd love to maybe got him an offensive lineman, upgrade at left tackle, just wasn't a good fit right now. So they'll probably wait till round 2 to do that. Maybe get the Ivante Ursary, if he's still there round 2, that'll be a good fit for them. Gives him a nice weapon for Staff to throw to right out the packet and helps him in the run game as well.
Straight out to Baltimore at 27, and Ash, you're putting a dagger through the heart of Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, it's also a dagger through me. I was hoping that he would fall one more pick, but unfortunately the fit is just too good for the Ravens to take the best player on the board for Walter Nolan, the defensive tackle at Ole Miss. I love Madubuike. Travis Jones is good. But then you've got Broderick Washington as the other starting defensive lineman. Mbolu coming day one. Completely upgrade there. Just gives them a nice bit of attacking pressure. Certainly that front three again is absolutely fearsome. I hate it because I would wanted him here. I hate it because it means the Ravens will be good again on that defense. They were kind of missing a bit of that interior pressure last year outside of Madubuike. Makes them so much better. I hate it.
Why is it that every defensive tackle I love ends up in the AFC North?
Sorry.
That's just not fair. The Steelers got one. The Ravens got one. The Ravens getting 5 years. I've been doing this 3 years. The AFC North gets my favorite DT. That's just, I swear, they're going to high on my hate list if that happens. Probably below the Bears.
We have Ryan Farden going Tyler Booker for the Baltimore Ravens, which I think is a really interesting pick. I know that that's an off-mocked thing for Baltimore. They've got Falele at right guard. Voorhees got injured, didn't he? Again at left guard, and then they've got Ben Cleveland behind that.
Yeah.
I think that Booker's probably an upgrade over both of those players, to be frank. So we'll see, but I like that pick. I have gone in a different direction. I still have a very interesting pick on the board from in the state of Michigan. Of course, we know that the Baltimore Ravens may be either cutting or trading Mark Andrews. So who better to replace him with than Colston Loveland? Perfect fit. You know, who do you want to replace the guy that does this skill set? Well, let's give him the exact same skill set again. Like, glove, meat, hand. And Baltimore.
Baltimore. Right. So you need to find a long-term partner to Nate Wiggins at corner in Baltimore. Marlon Humphrey is winding down his career. He's coming towards the end of it. And what better way than to give him his long-term successor, who he can take under his wing to train, because they're not too dissimilar He's 6 foot 201. His replacement is 5'11", 200. That'll be Jade Barron going here. And Jade Barron shares a lot of similarities to Marlon Humphrey. He's a ball hawk. He is one of those sort of really physically aggressive guys. He needs help with his tackling. Marlon Humphrey, back in his heyday, was one of the better tackling corners. He sort of has the game to be able to fix what Barron needs to be great. But he's high IQ. He knows where the ball is. He's going to get a lot of turnovers, and I will phase him in gradually over the season while letting him learn from Humphrey. And then you've got Jade Barron, Nate Wiggins there. Going to be a good corner pairing for years to come for the Ravens. I know they need an edge, but they do need a corner as well. They do need a long-term replacement for Humphrey. So Jade Barron's slide stops. He goes to the Ravens.
All right. He goes to the Ravens, and so now the Detroit Lions are on the clock for you, Ant. But do they pick?
Yes. I don't believe in trade downs for the Lions. I just don't. Not in the first round. Don't like it. So at minimum, they're going to stick where they're at. We need an edge player. I'm going to go for my favorite edge player who fits the mold here. I'm going to take Nick Scowerton at this point. I do not believe that his fall out the first round is legit. He fits the big end build that the Lions require, but for me, he's got the pass rush upside that some of his predecessors have not. I think he will fit in well to our system. He'll do what we need him to right off the bat, but I still think that the Purdue edge rusher is in there. He's going to be a little bit more developed than Carl Aftis was when he came into the league. He stayed at Purdue his entire career, did all the pass rushing stuff, but didn't do the run defense stuff, which he took time to adjust to in the league. He's a two-time Super Bowl or two, whatever. He's won multiple, but I would still take Scowerton at this point. Fills big needs for us at a position we need, and I believe in him. So yeah.
I also have the Lions picking at 28. You may not have noticed, you may have noticed, but I still have Walter Nolan on the board. That is the pick. Lions get Walter Nolan. We've talked about him before, so I won't go over that again. If the Lions have a chance to draft either Nolan or Harmon at DT here, then I think they should absolutely jump it. I have Harmon slightly above Nolan personally, which is why Harmon went to went to Tampa at 19. I didn't intend on this, even though this was like my dream pick, but every pick before it has been on some sort of logical basis, so it just happened, and I am very grateful, because with Aleem out, it provides relief, and then with Aleem back in, and we can rotate players in and out, we're going to be one of the freshest defenses in the league come December and January. How nice it will be. Ryan Farden next up has Derek Harmon, so thinking on the same things that I am. Ash, not Detroit.
Not Detroit. I have the New England Patriots trading up with us. I think Brad at this point will like some of the players that's on the board. We'll like quite a few of them. And we'll think that if he can trade down into the early second, there will still be some of them there. So I have the New England Patriots sending pick 38 to the top of the second and pick 77 at the top of the third for pick 28, picks 228 and 244 in the seventh. So you notice that we've got rid of some of those pesky late round picks. For the New England Patriots to trade up and take Matthew Golden to give Drake May a receiver to throw to. I know they just got Stephon Diggs, but he's coming off of the ACL injury. Mario Douglas is okay. Keyshawn Booty hasn't really lived up to the hype. Kendrick Bourne's okay. Javon Baker I liked, but he's good as like a sort of wide receiver 4-5. Jalen Polk hasn't lived up to the hype, and everyone else is meh, other than Mac Collins, who's just there for the memes, I guess. Giving Drake May, Matthew Golden, someone you can hit deep, you can trust on those deep routes, will unlock that offense for them, I think. And it gives us that chance to sort of fall down into the second, technically trade up with those 2 sevens as well, get that third round pick. Suddenly we've got quite a few picks in that top to 100, 105 range, where we can get impact players to fill out our depth, fill some of these roles. It just makes all the sense for me, unfortunately. So yeah, Patriots take Matthew Golden to pair with Mr. Drake May.
I do think if I was sculpting the perfect draft for the Lions, it would be trade down in round 1 and trade up from all of your day 3 picks and just have many second, third, and fourth round picks. If you
Yeah.
can do that, that's excellent in this draft for me. But yeah, cool. Okay, so you had Washington trading up with Minnesota. So do you have Minnesota picking here, Ash, at 29?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, I do. And funny enough, I had a similar thought process as you did. So Minnesota, we all know and love on this podcast that I love their defense at least. I love Brian Flores. I love what they did with their defense last year in free agency. I don't love their cornerback room right now. As much as Malachi Starks be a great pick for them, yeah, you can't be starting Isaiah Rodgers or Jeff Okudah. Like, Byron Murphy's good in the slot and outside. Harrison Smith's good. Josh Metellus will flip-flop everywhere. You need a proper starting outside corner, or at least one for the future. So with their trade down, they get who I think is the best fit for their man-heavy scheme, with Siobhan Ravel, the corner out of East Carolina, who unfortunately tore his ACL, so really didn't be able to put much tape on film. But he's got the sort of fluid hips, the speed, and the man coverage instincts to fit perfectly into their blitz-heavy, quarters, man-heavy scheme that they like to run. Perfect fit for them. And you can even bed in Siep while you're starting Isaiah Rodgers and Jeff Okudah. By the time they roll around to their bye week, hopefully Ravel will be healthy for training camp. Would have bedded enough in that scheme enough to then start for them. And suddenly that secondary looks pretty good for them with Ravel, Blackman, Byron Murphy, Metellus, and Harrison Smith. That's pretty formidable.
All right, so we have Ryan Farden next up for the Washington Commanders, and for them he takes Maxwell Hairston, which is a very interesting pick given that they have Mike Samrastrell, second round pick last year, Marshall Lattimore traded for last year, and nickel Noah Igbenogany, who really has rebounded actually after a really bad start to his career. He's turned into a low-key very good player. But in rotation behind those guys, Jonathan Jones, Bobby Price, formerly of the Lions, and Kevon Seymour. So nothing behind them particularly. So I do... Jones okay, but Maxwell Hairston I think could be a big upgrade there. So that would be very interesting. I also have Washington picking here, and I am taking them in a very different direction. They have seemingly, going from potentially one of the best defensive lines in football a couple of years ago with all first-round picks to trading them basically all away apart from Deron Payne. They have very little edge. Dorrance Armstrong, fine. Dietrich Wise, Cleveland Farrell, Jacob Martin. So, they got one edge player, really. One starter quality, and even then Dorrance Armstrong's mid. He's not an elite player by any stretch. So they really need someone who can set an edge, pass rush upside. I'm giving them the best edge defender on my board. And basically it's a very similar line of thinking to when Ant has taken Scourton for Detroit. Washington takes Scourton here. Washington for you, and 29.
Washington at 29. Your starting strong safety is Will Harris. That is not acceptable for a team that wants to go deep in the playoffs at all. And in this particular case, the safeties have dropped down the board here for me a little bit. Not because they're not good, but just because of how this has played out. I got Malachi Starks going to Washington. Say they've got a good corner rotation there, but you've got to get better with your safeties. And for me, he's a good hybrid, actually. You play him at strong safety. You can play free safety. He's very versatile. Got a lot of experience and production behind him, and he'll help you fill out that safety room. So your secondary is in good nick there. I do agree the defensive line is also a need for them, but I think when one of the best safeties on the board falls right down to you there, I think in terms of value and the level of skill you're getting supersedes that, and you take who's one of the best players left there. And you can keep Will on the bench where he belongs. So yeah, Malachi Starks to the Commanders.
That's the Commanders, but then you have Buffalo on the board at 30, Ant.
Yeah, there's no more trades or anything here. Just what Minnesota at 32. Buffalo need a running mate for Ed Oliver in the middle of that defense. You know, you want that line to be all conquering and to finish it off. And Derek Harmon is still on the board at this point, and the Bills take Derek Harmon, pair him with Ed Oliver. You're going to cause hella carnage in the offensive lines of all the rest of your rivals over there. Um, so yeah, I think this one's very simple for me. They need a DT. Derek Harmon's there. I think they'll take him in an absolute heartbeat. I know they need a receiver as well, but a defensive line's what's win your games, and they need to find a way to break Kansas City down. And the way by doing that is killing Patrick Mahomes, and this is the quickest way to them killing him. So there we go.
I'm next for Buffalo. And I did something which may be foolish, but I did it anyway. This team really overperformed on offense when everyone thought last year they were going to be poor. They traded away Stephon Diggs and actually got better. But was it a fluke? Do they need investment? Well, the offensive line's still really good. Obviously, Allen's there. Will Cook be there long term? Don't know, but they're not going to draft a running back here, I don't think. But I am looking at the fact that they've just brought in Josh Palmer from the Chargers. And is that a long-term thing for them? I don't know. Keon Coleman had an okay year, but wasn't fantastic. Khalil Shakir obviously was fantastic and got paid. But behind them, Jalen Virgil, Tyrell Shavers, Curtis Samuel, okay. Laviska Shenault, okay. KJ Hamler, okay. There's some depth there. But none of them are setting the world alight. I mean, at this point, Curtis Samuel's a bit of a gadget player. So's Shenault. KJ Hamler's whatever. So behind Palmer, there's no other wide receiver 3 even competing, really. So I'm going to take the best wide receiver on the board here as someone who can really elevate Josh Allen again. You know, they need a third guy who's really going to be special. When I say a third guy, but really, Coleman's a 2-3. Palmer's a 3-4. Shakir's a 1, but an Aaron Ra style 1. He's not an X or Y, you know. So I'm going to go for someone who isn't an X or Y either, but is X or Z, sorry, either, but is the best wide receiver on the board, and they'll make it work somehow. Draft good players, and you'll see how it works. Here comes Emeka Egbuka. It doesn't work with Khalil Shakir there. It's a bit redundant. They'll make it work. They'll put 2 guys out there and give Allen 2 quick twitch receivers underneath who can do a bit upfield as well. And I think that's going to be an absolute disaster for teams to try and defend, to have to go up against those 2 guys with Coleman as well. Ryan Farden next up. And he's gone for a very interesting pick. Nick Emanwari, safety. So Emanwari. So their safeties at the moment: Taylor Rapp, Damar Hamlin, Cole Bishop behind them, 2nd round pick. I'm not a massive Hamlin fan. Great story. Had a better year last year. Had a bit of ball production. Taylor Rapp is fine. I can see the upside here as a long-term play for Emanwari to be a long-term successor to either one of these guys. Ash, you're next up.
I've also gone secondary, but for me, them re-signing and trying to reclaim Trey White again ain't going to work. They need a proper starting outside corner. So I give them, again, the best one that fits their scheme, in my opinion. And that's old Mrs. Trey Amos, someone who I've heard rumors with my Minnesota and Green Bay above. I did consider giving him to Washington instead of Ravel. Well, Minnesota instead of Ravel. I did consider Washington taking him potentially. Just a really good corner, gives a bit of a ball hawk, good tackler, will fit their sort of off covers free scheme quite a lot, while also giving them some man coverage upside. And it sorts their issue. Trey White, as much as it's cool to have him back, it's not going to work, is it? So sorts them out for the immediate and the future at that secondary, because again, Drake May starts hitting. If Tua gets back to his form, suddenly that division, passing wise, looks a bit scarier. So they need to defend that. So Amos will help with that.
All right. 2 picks to go. Kansas City next up for you, Ash.
And the league is going to hate me because Kansas City have obviously they traded away Tooney to try and get a bit cheaper on the offensive line, which means they now have a bit of a hole there. I know some Matea's supposedly going to swing into left guard. That means Jalen Moore, who they signed from the 49ers, who's taken like 100 snaps as an actual starter in the league, is currently said to start at left tackle. They can get by for a bit with that for a month or so, but they need a longer term. You've just seen the UCLA news, haven't you? But I've got the Kansas City Chiefs solving their left tackle issue for the next couple of years with Josh Simmons, the Ohio State left tackle, who I've seen 2 videos today that have had him as their OT1. So the fact that Kansas City managed to get him at 31 is an absolute steal.
What's funny, Ant? What's happened?
Oh, Joey Aguiar's transferred to Tennessee.
They did the thing. They did the thing.
They did the thing. They did the thing. I love that. Aguiar's going to thrive in that spread offense.
So funny. All right. Ryan Farden, Kansas City at 31. He's had a very solid draft, if I say so myself, Ryan Farden here. He's gone for Josh Connolly for Kansas City, so I guess in a similar vein of thinking to you, Ash. That makes a lot of sense to me. I have no idea what I did. What did I do for Kansas City? Well, great minds think alike, Ash. Josh Simmons. Kansas City to finish up, and
so I've got them going tackle here. I've got them taking Josh Connolly Jr. out of Oregon. I agree. Jalen Moore is not a long-term fix at left tackle. I think they're running out of patience with Jawan Taylor at right tackle. I don't think their business is done there. I think what they need is stability at the position. And Connolly is probably one of the highest floor guys here. Even if he doesn't pan out as a high-level, top-level first-round pick, he's still going to be a steady presence at one of your positions for years to come. I don't think they're going to mind. I think they'll move guys around. I think Connolly will eventually end up starting on one of the tackle positions this year. But looking at who they're interested in tackle-wise, he is one where his name is mentioned quite a lot, and they have met with him again quite a bit. But I do like the fit between. I think they need to go tackle again purely and simply. They saw what happened in the Super Bowl. Mahomes just was not protected at all, and I know they need interior guys as well, but I still think the tackle positions need to be a lot more secure. And you start that now, because I don't think Jawan Taylor's long for that team at all. So yeah. Connolly will the guy.
And then your final pick is currently Minnesota at 32 after the trade up for James Pierce for Philadelphia. Are Minnesota picking here, though?
Yes, Minnesota are picking here. It's apt that my mock ends with part of a trade been done. And for me, Minnesota, they need their Jack Campbell on their team. They need a guy who's going to be that green dot leader on that defense for many years to come. But more importantly, they're going to need a guy who fits Brian Flores and his system there and what he's all about. I am putting Carson Schwessinger in the first round because I think Carson Schwessinger is a first round pick. And what's one of Carson Schwessinger's standout features that UCLA didn't do enough of with him? He's a blitzing linebacker. What does Brian Flores love to do more than anybody else in this league? He loves to blitz and get after the cornerback. You've got Ivan Pace Jr., you've got Carson Schwessinger. It's going to be an absolute nightmare to try and front up against what they can do with these two guys. But for me, he's an all-round linebacker. He's a good coverage linebacker. He's a solid tackler. I mean, and his blitz ability is so good. Like when Minnesota played, I was watching the Brosma tape. He got him twice, nearly a third time. Just the way he delays it, stays out of sight of the quarterback and picks his moment to go hit it. I think Brian Flores is going to absolutely love him, and they do have need for a linebacker one there who's going to be their future. And as I say, he's the exact perfect type of guy that Brian Flores would like, and I would hate it because I think he would be potentially the best linebacker in the entire NFC North in a few years. He's that good. and someone will take him. It should be the Rams, as I've said, but here the Vikings go back, get a few picks, and then they get their future defensive leader for many, many a year to come.
I'm not having this Blake Cashman erasure. Nope.
Well, tough.
Bad.
All right. I am next up for Philadelphia. And at the moment, Philadelphia have a massive hole on their team. Super Bowl champions, but their identity is strength in the trenches. So I don't think it's hard, and especially considering they pretty much always draft trenches in round 1, it's not hard to say they're going to do that again. I actually think the defense is okay. I think a lot of people want to say draft defensive line here for them, because do you really want to roll in with Moro Ajomo playing a lot of snaps? Dunno. Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter. Carter has been good, maybe not as people think he's been, but he's been very good, just not elite. Jordan Davis has started to warm up into the role which everyone thought he was going to be when he was drafted. But I'm going to go away from defensive line. This team is starting, apparently at the moment, Tyler Steen. Now, it might well be Kenyon Green from Houston. That's still not a good option to me. I don't like that for Philadelphia. What I do like for Philadelphia is getting a really good player who has potentially 5-position versatility. A player who has already gone in the majority of these drafts so far. For Ash and Ant, he has certainly gone in the top half. No, so not quite top half, but pretty close. For me, he's fallen a little bit. Not because of him, but just because teams have had other needs, and I've drafted other players in these positions. But Gray Zabel is still here. And if Zabel fell to Philadelphia, everyone else will weep, because that will be another terrific draft. Oh, he's done it again, they will cry. I mean, we will probably say that about Philadelphia one way or the other this season, but never mind. So, terrific pick, if I do say so myself. But it's Philly. They're going to pick someone who falls at this point, and for me, it's Zabel. Ryan Farden has gone with Walter Nolan. Same idea, I guess, for me. Just, whoever fell, and that's a really nice pick. Ash, to finish us off.
I'll give you guys one guess. Someone that everyone else has already selected and fits the Philadelphia Eagles meme to a T.
We've all selected him already, but you haven't.
Mm-hmm.
Malachi Starks.
Yep. The fucking Philadelphia Eagles have another great Georgia defender fall into their laps at 32 in the first round. I know they've got Reed Blankenship and Sidney Brown right now. Lewis seems their backup safety though, and Starks just offers that positional versatility where they can just move things around. I know obviously they've got Vic Fangio there. He's kind of moved from those traditional shells, defenses that we know and love. He's become a bit more variable on the back end, kind of taking in a few more different kind of coverage schemes, giving them Malachi Starks allows them to play free safeties. Suddenly, you're not having to trust Keely Ringu as one of your starting outside corners as well. In certain packages, you can move DeJean out there, put Starks in the slot, move everyone around. And he's just too much of a good player to pass up at this point. Kind of like with Matt taking Zabel, Ryan Farden taking Walter Nolan, obviously them trading up for James Pierce. They need to think just another sort of top tier talent, and Starks is arguably one of the blue chip talents in this draft. Is just going to fall because of the positional value, and then just teams needing other things. So unfortunately, the Super Bowl champs get a great one at 32, and then they can swing around in the second and third round with all these picks they're seemingly going to have, and suddenly they can take like Anthony Belton, move him inside to guard like they did with Mickey Beckton, and suddenly get a starting guard for the next couple of years. They can swing around at pick 64, take Tyleik Williams, and suddenly their defensive line sorted. stock's just too good for him to pass up at this point. And yeah, Howie Roseman just solidifies why he's seen as one of the best GMs in the league alongside Brad.
Makes sense. Okay, I've put a poll up. Please do vote who you think, not who's had the best mock draft in terms of what you like, who's going to be the most accurate, who's going to win the game. Let me remind you of the point scoring system. 1 point for identifying the player at the correct pick number, 1 point for correctly identifying the player to the correct team, and then a bonus point for correctly predicting that a team will trade up or down. Only up if it's up, and down if it's down, obviously. When they're only halfway up, they're rather up down. And if you correctly identify the correct position but not the correct player, you get a half-point consolation. So let's go through these total drafts, asking the individual people who've made these mocks to go through those. So, Ant, I'm going to start with you. Can you just introduce your total first-round mock for us briefly?
Yes, I can. Just give me one moment.
I can go first if you want, and then I can...
In fact, yeah, because I've not got it up on my screen.
All right, so I will go first. At 1, Tennessee take Cam Ward. At 2, the Saints trade up with Cleveland to take Shadur Sanders. The Giants take Travis Hunter at 3. Patriots Abdul Carter at 4. At 5, Jackson will take Will Campbell. 6, the Raiders take Ashton Genty. At 7, the Jets take Armand Membu. At 8, Jalen Walker for Carolina. At 9, the Saints have traded up, so it's now Cleveland who take Mason Graham. At 10, Chicago take Tet McMillan. At 11, San Francisco take Will Johnson. At 12, Dallas and Shamar Stewart. 13, Miami, Kelvin Banks Jr. 14, the Colts, Tyler Warren. 15, the Falcons, Mike Green. 16, Cardinals, Matthew Golden. 17, Bengals, Michael Williams. 18, Seattle, Jihad Campbell. At 19, Bucks, Derek Harmon. 20, Broncos are Marion Hampton. 21, Steelers, Malachi Starks. 22, Chargers, Jede Barron. 23, Packers, Siobhan Ravel. 24, Vikings, Benjamin Morrison. 25, Houston Texans, Tyler Booker. 26, Rams, Nick Emanwari. 27, Ravens, Colson Loveland. 28, Lions, Walter Nolan. 29, Commanders, Nick Scowerton. 30, Bills, Emeka Ibuka. 31, Chiefs, Josh Simmons. And 32, Eagles, Gray Zabel. And your class.
So I've got 5 trades in here, so if it's all over the place, understand why. But at 1, Cam Ward to Tennessee. 2, Travis Hunter to Cleveland. 3, Abdul Carter to the New York Giants. 4, Will Campbell to the Patriots. At number 5, I've got Ashton Jonty going to the Chicago Bears. At 6, I've got Mason Graham going to the 49ers. At 7, I've got Armand Membu going to the Jets. 8, Jalen Walker going to the Panthers. 9, Kelvin Banks going to the Saints. 10, I got Tyler Warren going to the Jaguars. 11, Matthew Golden going to Las Vegas. 12, Tet McMillan going to the Cowboys. 13, Will Johnson going to the Dolphins. 14, Colston Loveland going to the Colts. 15, I've got Jihad Campbell going to the Buccaneers. 16, I've got Shadur Sanders going to the Steelers. 17, I've got Shamar Stewart going to the Bengals. 18, Grazer Bell to the Seahawks. 19, Mikael Williams to the Falcons. 20, Amarian Hampton to the Broncos. 21, I've got Walter Nolan going to the Arizona Cardinals. 22, Kenneth Grant going to the Chargers. 23, Donovan Aziruaku going to the Packers. 24, James Pierce Jr. going to the Philadelphia Eagles. 25, Donovan Jackson to the Texans. 26, Maxwell Hairston to the Rams. 27, Jade Barron to the Ravens. 28, Nick Scourton going to the Lions. 29, Malachi Starks going to the Commanders. 30, Derek Harmon going to the Bills. 31, Josh Connolly Jr. going to the Chiefs. And to end it all, Minnesota Vikings at 32, take Carson Schwessinger.
I'll do Ryan's now, and then Ash can finish off. So Ryan Farden has taken Cam Ward at 1 to Tennessee. Cleveland take Travis Hunter at 2. Giants take Carter at 3. Patriots take Will Campbell at 4. Jags take Mason Graham at 5. Raiders Genty at 6. Jets Member at 7. Carolina at 8 take Jalen Walker. Saints at 9 take Shadir Sanders. 10 for Chicago take Tyler Warren. San Francisco 11 take Will Johnson. Dallas at 12 take Ted McMillan. 13 Miami Colston Loveland. 14 Colts Kelvin Banks Jr. 15 Falcons Shamar Stewart. 16 Cardinals Mike Green. 17 Bengals Tyleek Williams. 18 Seahawks Matthew Golden. 19 Bucks Jihad Campbell. 20 Broncos Kenneth Grant. 21 Steelers, the shock of the whole thing, Jalen Milroe. Chargers at 22, Ibuka. 23 Packers, Jade Barron. 24 Vikings, Malachi Starks. 25 Houston, Josh Simmons. 26 Rams, Jackson Dart. 27 Ravens, Tyler Booker. 28 Lions, Derek Harmon. 29 Commanders, Maxwell Hairston. 30 for the Bills, Nick Emanwari. 31 for the Chiefs, Connolly Jr. And 32 for the Eagles, Walter Nolan. And Ash, you're 32.
Tennessee taking Cam Ward first overall. At number 2, Cleveland Browns take Travis Hunter. At 3, the Giants take Abdul Carter. 4, New England Patriots take Will Campbell. At 5, I have the New Orleans Saints trading up to take Shador Sanders. At 6, I have the San Francisco 49ers trading up to make Armand Membu. At 7, I have the Jets taking Will Johnson. At 8, Carolina Panthers take Jalen Walker. At 9, with a trade down with the Saints, the Jacksonville Jaguars take Mason Graham. At 10, the Bears stay put and take Austin Giante. At 11, the Raiders with their trade down with the 49ers take Ted McMillan. At 12, I have the Cowboys taking Mike Green. At 13, I have the Colts trading up to take Tyler Warren. At 14, with their trade down with the Colts, the Dolphins take Kelvin Banks Jr. At 15, the Falcons take Michael Williams. 16, the Cardinals take Derek Harmon. 17, the Bengals take Shamar Stewart. 18, the Seattle Seahawks take Grace Bell. 19, Tampa Bay Buccaneers take Jihad Campbell. At 20, the Broncos take Luther Burden. At 21, the Pittsburgh Steelers take Jackson Dart. 22, Lele Chargers take Kenneth Grant. 23, the Packers take Jade Barron. At 24, I have the Commanders trading up with Minnesota for Mbika Buka. At 25, the Texans take Josh Conley Jr. 26, the LA Rams take Colston Loveland. At 27, the Baltimore Ravens take Walter Nolan. At 28, I have the Lions trading down with the New England Patriots. The Patriots coming up to select Matthew Golden. At 29, with the trade down with the Commanders, the Minnesota Vikings take Siobhan Revel. At 30, the Bills take Trey Amos. At 31, the Kansas City Chiefs take Josh Simmons. And at number 32, Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles take safety Malachi Starks.
All right, let us know in the comments down below who you think's been the most accurate as well. And for the second week in a row, you've won the poll for most accurate draft. So congratulations to you. For our live audience, you have won. Ash did not get any votes, but never mind. Sorry.
Gotta do all them trades, man.
We do have a question, but I'm going to take that off the air because we've been going for a while. So I'm going to end the audio pod here. We're going to be back on Wednesday for our draft bets and hot takes show. So please do come and join us for that. It should start at 2:30 Eastern time. And then we'll be back evening and morning, or afternoon and morning, I should say, Eastern time, with shows Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday morning as well. So please do come say hi. It's going to be a labour of love for us. I hope you enjoy it as much as we have enjoyed and will enjoy doing it. Yeah, that's our next show on Wednesday. Otherwise, you know where to follow us on our socials. Please do help us out as much as you can. It's been a big effort for us, so if you see any posts on social media and you do fancy putting in a retweet, much appreciated. That does more than you know. But otherwise, it's been a labour of love, I know, in this first round mock for all of us, because, as you said, Ant, it's a horrible first round to try and figure out what the hell's going to happen. So appreciate you both for getting in your mocks for this, and to everyone for listening, thank you very much. We'll see you later on in the week. For now, let's go Lions, one pride.
One pride.
Recording stopped.
And we had a question from Mike the Marine, which says, of the players picked 28 to 30, well, 29 to 32 or 28 to 32, pick a player for the Lions that you didn't pick for the Lions.
Just close my fingers. Well, God damn it. So 29 on.
I don't know whether the question is anyone who has picked 28 to 32 in any of the drafts or just in your own one. For me, it's quite easy. I would probably go... Well, actually, I don't know. Skouton or Zabel?
Yeah.
Zabel, Zabel?
See, exactly. You've all got nice, easy answers. For me, it's probably Malachi Starks, but that also means Kirby's probably not getting his extension. Will break my heart. We don't need corner. We don't need Simmons.
Unless you project Simmons inside.
I don't. I really don't. He's a tackle only for me. Doesn't have the sort of power profile to go inside.
I mean, you could take Golden.
I thought it was 29 onwards. So it's the last 4 picks.
The question was 28 onwards, but but the two of us picked that lines at 28, so it wouldn't apply. But you could have Golden if you wanted.
Still Starks.
Fair.
I want that X. I want my X receivers. Golden's not an X receiver.
And
You know what? I'd very selfishly take Luther Burden if I hadn't there. Like, there's no edges after that. I'm really intrigued in by that spot. I really love Luther Burden. In fact, no, have I put Luther? No, I haven't. I can't have Luther.
I was the only one to take Luther Burden in the first. That's why I was like getting so confused. Like, why is no one taking? I'm the only one's taking Luther.
Well, I'm the only. Hang on. Am I the only one who took Ibuka? No, Ryan took him at 22.
I took him at 24. I had the Commander's Shredded.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So Ant didn't have him as the only person. Okay, I overlooked that. My bad.
Not because I didn't want to, but because I know the league doesn't like him as much, so whatever. I'd have him in there, but...
Alright, that's the only question we had. So, should we get out of here? It's been a long show. We're going to have a long week.
Yeah.
It's a very telling grunt. Right, people in the chat, thank you very much. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you on Wednesday. Goodbye.